Warrior Lore. Chapter 89 Forming the Een Pearls. Chapter 89 Forming the Een Pearls. Sponsored by A. Al-Sadi, T. Lee and N. Markandai. The three swirls were floating above Shi Yan's head like giant clouds. Sparks flew inside the swirls and wisps of cold Een Qi were repeatedly refined in the swirls, forming strange gray light spots. The air above the Een field was filled with natural Een Qi and had remained as such for a long time. But the huge attraction from the three swirls was showing a pattern of rapid consumption, swallowing it to the last. Shi Yan's expression was serious, as if he had entered some enigmatic realm. The swirls above his head suddenly emitted some gray light spots, all of which entered Shi Yan's body. Because of that, Shi Yan's body started forming a vacuum which was felt by everyone present. His body was now like a black hole, sucking in all the gray light spots that came down from above. The gray light spots flickered and jumped and entered into Shi Yan's body. Shi Yan was now covered in a gray glow, and a chilling atmosphere spread out from him in all directions. Whoever got near Shi Yan couldn't help but feel stiff. The circulation of their profound qi would slow down, and they would have to use their qi for defense, or else they would be affected by the dense Een Qi. It was like Shi Yan had transformed into a giant Een Qi-swallowing monster. Shi Yan was sitting as still as a stone while the three swirls floating above his head were wildly swallowing and transforming the Een Qi in the Een Valley. He was continuously refining the Een Qi, transforming it into purest form of Een energy, which was in turn nurturing his cultivation. In Shi Yan's chest, the three meridians of Tian Ke, Shun Ke, and Een Du started rapidly gathering the gray light spots that had rushed into his body. These gray light spots all represented the purest form of profound Een Qi. Huge amounts of light spots all entered the Een swirls and were refined to the purest degree. This refined energy then started gathering at the center of the Een swirls. Unknowingly, in the center of the three Een swirls, there were three rice grain-sized pearls slowly starting to form. Once he detected the formation of the Een pearls, Shi Yan's expression shook. He discreetly started to detect his surroundings. When he realized there was nothing abnormal, he went back and continued circulating the Een swirls, ready to keep absorbing more of the natural Een Qi. You don't need to stop. Xia Xian stood by Shi Yan's side. Her beautiful eyes glinted. I know what you're doing, and I know you can hear me too. The nine-headed sky snake will get here really soon, but we'll take care of that. You can keep swallowing the natural Een Qi here. Indeed, Shi Yan could hear Xia Xian's voice, but he couldn't reply to her. Miss Xia, if Shi Yan doesn't stop here, the nine-headed sky snake will attack him first, Ku Long said hurriedly. Zhua Qi and Qi Xiao also looked at Xia Xian with a bit of surprise, not knowing what she meant by her proposal. The nine-headed sky snake has 9 heads, 3 of which can breathe fire, 3 can spit poison, and the remaining 3 can control the Een Qi in the Een field to attack differently. Xia Xian's pretty eyes glinted, and she explained in seriousness. The 3 heads that can control the natural Een Qi are very troublesome, and they will be hard for us to take care of. But now we have an advantage. If Shi Yan keeps sucking in the natural Een Qi like this, that means once the nine-headed sky snake gets here, the Een Qi attack will be swallowed by the swirls above Shi Yan's head. This way, 3 of the 9 heads will be greatly weakened. Upon hearing that, Zhua Qi and Qi Zhao's eyes both glinted. Together they nodded and approved. Not bad. Once those 3 heads become powerless, the 9-headed sky snake will be a lot easier to deal with. Warrior Lord Zhua Qi is not scared of the venom, and you also brought the silver curtain. So now we only need to put our efforts into the 3 fire-breathing heads. Because of Shi Yan, this fight is going to be a lot easier for us. Xia Xian said calmly. Zhua Qi and Qi Xiao nodded quietly. They both agreed upon Xia Xian's suggestion. Would my young master be okay? Han Feng suddenly opened his eyes and coldly stared at Xia Xian. Although we are very interested in the gate of heaven, the young master's life is more important. He's only bait. He can just keep up what he's doing now. Xia Xian frowned and continued. If he wants to wake up, he could do so any time. But he will need a whole lot more time to try to gather the Een Qi like this another time. Boom, boom, boom. The thundering roar was getting closer. The earth was shaking, and in the distance, a faint but frightening figure slowly started to appear. "Get ready to fight," Qi Xiao shouted. At another entrance of the Yin field, Bai Mingxiang's expression shook slightly. He looked far away into the distance at the smoke-like swirls that rose into the air. His cold eyes flashed with a trace of confusion. "Grandpa, have they started fighting?" Bai Mingsu asked. Shaking his head, Bai Mingxiang said, "No, it's just that the natural Yin Qi has become abnormal. It is our all gathering towards where Qi Xiao and his group are at. The nine-headed sky snake is out of the Yin Valley and is rushing towards them. I wonder what is going on over there. When should we get there? Let's wait. Wait until the fighting is almost over." On another side, the people from the dark world were gazing at the three floating swirls where Shi Yin was. They were also full of surprise and didn't know what was going on. "Master, it's like the natural Yin Qi has changed and is all gathering towards that one spot? Could it be that the nine-headed sky snake has already started to attack?" The demonic young man guessed. The nine-headed sky snake is able to use the natural Yin Qi to cultivate, but it shouldn't be this overbearing. To make all of that natural Yin Qi flow towards one spot, I think even the nine-headed sky snake would be unable to make such a grand gesture. Besides, the change is from outside the Yin Valley. It's obviously done by Qi Zhao's group. The Lord of the Dark World said with a deep tone. "Should we go and see it?" "No, we will wait for Bai Mingxiang's news. If Bai Mingxiang doesn't give out the signal, we will stay put for now. Your mistress should already be there. So if the gate of heaven really appears, your mistress will send out a signal. We don't need to be in such a hurry." Understood. The three Yin pearls were slowly forming. With more natural Yin Qi flowing in, the three Yin pearls grew brighter and brighter. The Yin pearls were in the middle of the Yin swirls outside of Shi Yan's meridians. They were rolling in the air, and whenever a wisp of gray Yin Qi came in, the Yin pearls would immediately absorb the gray light spots. Only when the Yin pearls were truly formed would they finally sink into the three meridians by themselves. Shi Yin knew this deep in his heart. So when he clearly heard Xia Xian Yan's words, and knew that Han Feng and Ku Long were very worried about him, he still didn't stop the movement of the Yin swirls. He had a hunch that the Yin pearls were at their crucial moment, and perhaps they will soon be truly formed successfully and then enter into his meridians. When the three swirls showed up above his head, he was shocked too. When the three swirls started insanely swallowing the natural Yin Qi, Shi Yin was finally sure that that was only ranked as a mortal-level martial skill, was not something ordinary. What kind of mortal-level martial skill could cause such a big disturbance? He really couldn't think of any. Roar, roar, roar. Terrifying roaring sounds thundered from the distance and filled the whole Yin field. The nine-headed sky snake was a demon beast which was at the pinnacle of level 7. Legend has it that it was an ancient mutant, a hybrid born from a dragon and a python. It has the ability to keep evolving, so when the nine-headed sky snake has swallowed enough Yin Qi, poisonous air, and fire, it could evolve again and become a level 8 or level 9 demon beast. The reason why this nine-headed sky snake decided to take over the Yin field was because it had seen that this place was rich in Yin Qi, and the outer perimeter of the dead swamp was covered by poisonous fog. It wanted to occupy this place so that it could use the poisonous air and the Yin Qi present for cultivation. Soon a mountain-like figure, the sky snake with 9 giant heads, finally came out of the Yin Valley. The nine-headed sky snake had a body like a mountain, covered with silver scales and sharp spines. All 9 of its heads were about 20-something meters long. Each head was like a giant python and had creepy white fangs. Each head was breathing out either poisonous fog, Yin Qi, or flames. Attack! Once Shuaqi saw it, his face hardened and he charged ahead of others. Earth dragons abruptly broke out of the ground. Shuaqi's body flickered, and he possessed one of the earth dragon's bodies. When Shuaqi possessed the earth dragon, its body covered itself in hard earth armor. The dragon head faintly looked like Shuaqi's face, and its body grew twice the size. Shuaqi was born from a level 8 mud dragon and a human female warrior. The mud dragon was originally the true master of the dead swamp and was able to transform into human shape. It was also once the strongest demon beast in this area. Legend has it that back then, the mud dragon was the king of the demon beasts here, and not a single warrior could offend his prestige. The mud dragon was a level 8 demon beast, comparable to a spirit realm warrior. But 1,000 years ago, it suddenly died in the dead swamp. It was a baffling death. Many years after its death, the nine-headed snake finally appeared in the dead swamp and drove Zhua Qi to the outer perimeter of the dead swamp. It forcibly occupied the Yin Valley to cultivate, which is why Zhua Qi has so much hatred for it. When Zhua Qi possessed the Earth Dragon and charged at the nine-headed Sky Snake, Qi Xiao quietly told about the grudge between Zhua Qi and the nine-headed Sky Snake. Level 8 Demon Beast. Xia Xianyan's expression also shifted slightly. No wonder Zhua Qi can control the poisonous mist and also freely travel through the mud. So he's a hybrid between a mud dragon and a human. If he didn't know how to control the poisonous mist and the mud, he would have been killed by the nine-headed snake a long time ago. At the outer perimeter of the dead swamp, as long as Zhua Qi could hide in the swamps, nobody can do anything to him. That's the reason why it's so tough to handle Zhua Qi. You too. Can you start fighting now? On the other side, Zhua Qi was in the form of an earth dragon, and he yelled from inside the flames that were breathed out by the nine-headed snake. He sounded a little urgent. Dash. Chapter 90. The Sky Changes. Chapter 90. The Sky Changes. Outside the Yin Valley, thunderous roars rang out endlessly, and huge amounts of power was surging and propagating across the sky like lightning. Qi Xiao, Xia Xianyan, and Zhua Qi all leapt into the air. They were all facing the nine-headed sky snake with all their strength. Qi Xiao had turned into a giant and was wielding the silver curtain to guard against the venom while he held a giant sword in one hand. He was single-handedly facing the 3 fire-breathing heads of the nine-headed sky snake. Zhua Qi had possessed an earth dragon and was veering around the 3 venomous heads of the nine-headed sky snake. The sky snake seemed to know that its venom was ineffective against Zhua Qi, so it opened its enormous mouth and bit down on Zhua Qi's possessed earth dragon. Xia Xianyan was faring the best of the 3. She floated in the air like a goddess, forming strange seals with her hands. Huge claws would momentarily appear in the air, which would ruthlessly attack the rest of the heads of the nine-headed sky snake. These 3 heads of the sky snake could control the natural Yin Qi, but whenever it breathed out the Yin Qi, they would be immediately absorbed by the 3 hovering swirls above Shiyan's head. After a few futile attempts, the sky snake became furious. It moved toward Shiyan and repeatedly tried to clash with him. It was determined to kill Shiyan first. Han Feng and Ku Long were observing everything gravely. Though being uneasy, they stood beside Shiyan and were constantly on guard. Zhou Shi, Wu Yunlian, and Chu Ping soon arrived at that stop. Now all the members from the Shi family and Zhou family had gathered together, and other than Shiyan, all were watching the fight between the nine-headed sky snake and the 3 masters. Shiyan was sitting still as a stone, his eyes closed and expression indifferent. However, he could clearly feel the striking waves of devastating power. The fight among the Sky Realm Masters destroyed all the vegetation around the Yin Valley. In one place, a deep crack had formed on the ground during the battle. Even Shiyan, who was sitting with eyes closed, could feel the terrifying impacts. However, he still didn't stop the Yin swirls from taking in the natural Yin Qi. In his chest, the Yin swirls finally turned into Yin pearls. They emitted a dark glow and contained overwhelming Yin Qi. These pearls slowly sunk into the 3 meridians of Shen Ke, Tian Ke, and Yin Du. Once the 3 Yin pearls sunk into his meridians, Shiyan's body trembled. Checking inside his body, Shiyan realized that when the Yin pearls entered in the meridians, the negative energies already present in the meridians all rushed towards the Yin pearls, as if it was assimilating into the Yin pearls. Shiyan was startled. He hurriedly concentrated his all in observing his 3 meridians. He suddenly remembered that all his meridians had some amount of negative energy. He really didn't expect that these negative energies would conflict with the emerging Yin pearls. Inside the 3 meridians, wisps of negative energy formed into ribbon-like shapes and slowly gathered together. Once the three Yin pearls entered his meridians, the negative energies immediately intertwined with them, as if they were actually trying to break down the Yin pearls. However, the Yin pearls had condensed massive amounts of natural Yin qi and had formed after continuous and repeated refinement. Although the negative energies in his meridians were domineeringly wicked, they still lacked in quantity. Over the course of these days, Shi Yin had indeed absorbed a lot of negative energy, but the negative energies were spread throughout the meridians in his body. There were 720 meridians in total in his body, and of course the negative energy distributed to these three meridians was limited. However, it was as if the Yin pearls knew the lethality of the negative energy and were determined to defend against it. It was like the Yin pearls were going all out till the end. Soon the negative energy and the Yin pearls in his body stopped blindly battling each other. With more and more Yin qi pouring into the Yin swirls, three more new Yin pearls started forming in the center of the Yin swirls. This way, the previous three Yin pearls that had already sunk into his meridians gained strong support. The Yin pearls slowly gained dominance within Shi Yan's meridians. On the contrary, it was those domineering negative energies that had to shrink back into the corner of his meridians and stop causing trouble. They couldn't gain support. Over Shi Yan's head, the three mountainous Yin swirls continued to rapidly absorb the natural Yin qi. The Yin field that never sees the light all year round was suddenly struck with its first beam of sunlight. Under the crazy suction of the three mountainous swirls above Shi Yan's head, the Yin qi that had gathered for thousands of years and covered the air in the Yin field was on the verge of being totally dried up. The cold and gloomy Yin field slowly became warmer because of the influx of sunlight. More sunlight shone from above, and the beams of sunlight shot onto the plants and demon beasts in the Yin field. The strange, bizarre plants soon became limp and shriveled up under the blazing sun. Many demon beasts were roaring in madness. They sprinted out of the Yin field and unwittingly rushed towards the outer perimeter of the dead swamp. "Hey!" Zhuashir exclaimed. "These plants and demon beasts are scared of sunlight?" The plants in the Yin field grow from the natural Yin qi. They've already adapted to the environment here. But now that the natural Yin qi is gone, these plants that have never been in contact with sunlight can't tolerate it. They are all going to wither and die. Wu Yunlian explained. "What about the demon beasts?" "They're the same. The demon beasts that live here cultivate by absorbing the Yin qi. There is a heavy amount of Yin qi in their bodies. They naturally like the cool shade. So once they realize that sunlight has appeared, they could only sprint away to escape into the swamps in the outer areas. At least there are poisonous fogs and the shade of old trees to cover them. It's better than being completely exposed to the sun like this." "Does that mean the nine-headed sky snake is affected too?" "Indeed." Wu Yunlian was dazed for a second, and she gazed at the nine-headed sky snake. Sure enough, under the blazing sun, the three heads of the nine-headed sky snake that breathed Yin qi seemed to be getting weaker. Under Xia Xian Yan's attacks with the giant hands, those three heads could only dodge, possessing no power to fight back. The two tall buff men who were worriedly watching Xia Xian Yan at this moment finally breathed out in relief. One of them looked back and gazed afar at Shi Yan. He frowned and quietly said, "Thanks to that guy. If it weren't for him absorbing all that natural Yin qi like this and exposing sunlight in the Yin field, the nine-headed sky snake would really be hard to handle. It surprised me that the would spread to here. I wonder where he got such a thing." Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. The nine-headed snake stumbled along the way and suddenly sprinted towards the Yin Valley. The sun had appeared, and the nine-headed sky snake's body was heavily damaged. It actually started thinking about running for its life. "Chase it!" Zhua Qi cried out. He ran ahead first, staring at the nine-headed sky snake, and pursued it vigorously. Qi Xiao and Xia Xian Yin exchanged eye contact. They both knew that the gate of heaven was in the Yin Valley. If they gave the nine-headed sky snake enough time to rest, it would become more troublesome later on. Instead, they might as well destroy it as soon as possible. So, Qi Xiao and Xia Xian Yin also followed. Thundering roars kept coming from inside the Yin Valley. Qi Xiao and the rest should still be batting the nine-headed sky snake in the valley. Outside the valley, the three giant swirls above Shi Yan's head slowly disappeared. All the natural yin qi that filled the enormous yin field had been emptied. In Shi Yan's chest, three new yin pairs were successfully formed, and together they sank into his meridians. Feeling that the yin swirls had stopped whirling, and not a single trace of yin qi was flowing into his body, he finally woke up. Shi Yan opened his eyes and stood up. He looked around at the surprised Han Feng, Wu Yunlian, and the rest, then said, "Let's go look in the yin valley. It sounds like the nine-headed sky snake is almost finished." As expected, when everyone listened, they realized that the stirring in the yin valley had started to die out. "Young master, how are you doing?" Kulong couldn't help but ask. "I'm all right. I was cultivating a new skill. I just didn't expect this skill to be so strange." Shi Yan furrowed his brows. He suddenly thought of something and tried to circulate the three yin swirls at his chest. Wisps of strange yin power suddenly flowed out from the three meridians of Shen Ke, Tian Ke, and Yin Du. The yin power poured into the yin swirls, and the yin swirls began to quickly whirl, releasing traces of pure yin power. Yin power was different than profound qi, but it went along his arm and flowed out. In his palm, a chilling glow shone, and a dark green light ball slowly covered his whole hand. As his yin power stirred, the light ball became bigger and bigger, and eventually it became a head-sized green light ball. Lightly taking a breath in, Shi Yan's reversed the action. That green light ball started shrinking again, and all the yin power returned through its original course and returned to the yin swirls and was again absorbed by the 6 yin pearls in his meridians. The yin pearls were the source of power of the. They released power through the yin swirls and then flew out of his meridians to attack. Secretly feeling around for a moment, Shi Yan soon realized the way to use the. It's not the same as swallowing an yin qi, but the other way around. "Baiming Shang, what are you doing here?" Right at this moment, from the yin valley there suddenly came Qi Zhao's surprised shout. Everyone outside the valley suddenly felt something amiss. "Quickly, let's go and see." Wu Yunlian notified the rest and hurriedly rushed towards the direction of the yin valley. Shi Yan, Han Feng, and Kulong couldn't treat this lightly either, so together they quickly sprinted out and ran towards the yin valley with great speed. Dash. Chapter 91, Dividing the Plunder. Chapter 91, Dividing the Plunder. In the yin valley. As Shi Yan had absorbed all the yin qi between the heaven and earth, there was no yin qi left in the yin valley. The dazzling sunlight fell in the valley. The massive body of the nine-headed sky snake fell at the center of the yin valley with blood dripping from wounds all over its body. Under the attacks of Qi Xiao, Zhua Qi, and Xia Xian Yin, and without any yin qi, the nine-headed sky snake finally died under the sun. However, apart from Qi Xiao, Zhua Qi, and Xia Xian Yin, there were other people who had also entered the yin valley. The group, including Shi Yin and Zhua Shi, had also arrived in the valley by then. As soon as Shi Yin saw the scene in the valley, his face turned gloomy. Baiming Su and Baiming Shang were standing there. Yin Kue and Jiushan were naturally standing by Baiming Su. Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan were excited to see the nine-headed sky snake lying in its own in blood. Beside the experts of the Baiming family stood Zhou Zihe and a strange young man. All the people in the valley were focusing their eyes on the nine-headed sky snake in the center. Qi Xiao and Zhua Qi appeared tired, with sweat all over their bodies. Xia Xian Yin looked pale. Although she had taken a sky pill, her energy had not fully recovered. The three had tried everything and used up all their energy in killing the nine-headed sky snake, only to find that Baiming Shang and another sky realm expert had appeared in the yin valley secretly. It was easy to understand their frustration. After Shi Yan entered the valley, he stood beside Han Feng and Kulong, calmly gazing at Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan, who were quite excited. "Everyone can have the treasure from the nine-headed sky snake carcass. This sky snake has 9 demon crystals. How about we divide it among ourselves?" Baiming Shang frowned and said calmly, "You three really suffered a lot, so I won't ask for much. I only need 2 demon crystals out of 9. One of the fire element and the other of yin qi. Why on earth should you have a share?" Zhua Qi's face was twisted as he demanded with a hideous expression, "All the demon crystals of the nine-headed sky snake belong to us. We brought out our all to kill this snake, and now you want us to share the booty with you? Why should we?" "Why?" Baiming Shang said coldly, "Because we are here. I want a cut also." The Dark Master of the Dark World said peacefully as he pointed to one of the snake heads which could emit yin qi. "The demon crystal in that head is mine. The rest are all yours." Hee. Zhua Qi showed a grim smile. "You have to first make sure you are capable of getting it. Capable or not, you must know it better than me." The Dark Master looked at Zhua Qi and said peacefully, "We tested each other at the perimeter of the dead swamp, and you killed several of my people. However, that was in the outer area where you could use the swamp and poisonous air as your shield. What about here?" "Brother Zhou." Baiming Shang looked to the Dark Master and grinned. "There seem to be 3 Sky Realm warriors, but that's not the exact situation." "Really? Miss Xia's martial spirit is marvelous, but she is a mere Disaster Realm 3rd Sky Warrior." Baiming Shang pointed to Xia Xianyan. "She won't recover in a short time since she has used her martial spirit. We don't need to worry about her." Xia Xianyan's face turned pale after she heard that. Zhua Qi's expression was also changed, and he couldn't help but look to her. Is that so? As far as he was concerned, although he and Qi Xiao had consumed much energy, they could still make them give up the demon crystals as long as they received Xia Xianyan's help. However, if Xia Xianyan was only at the 3rd sky of the Disaster Realm, then they would definitely lose. Under Zhua Qi's gaze, Xia Xianyan nodded in resignation. "Baiming Shang, why on earth are you here?" Qi Xia had some other concerns. He thought for a while and asked, "What do you think?" Baiming Shang asked with a grin. "I got it." Qi Xiao sighed and nodded. "You have come for the Gate of Heaven, haven't you? It seems you never let go of the treasure map. Our sources in the Tianyun city are far greater than you can imagine. Nothing would go unnoticed if I care to know." Baiming Shang walked over slowly to one of the snake heads and continued calmly, "Let's divide the demon crystals first, then we will have a discussion about the Gate of Heaven." Under the watchful eyes of the people present, Baiming Shang took out a demon crystal and said, "I want this one." The Dark Master from the Dark World didn't move, and he demanded casually, "Mu Hui, get the demon crystals." That exotic young man nodded with a smile and walked to the 2 snake heads, without minding Qi Xiao and the rest, knowing they dare not fight. Zhua Qi was in a rage, with his face as red as a tomato, but he stood there and clenched his teeth. "I will remember you too." Baiming Shang and Dark Master didn't respond. Zhua Qi gouged the remaining 5 demon crystals. Qi Xiao sighed with resignation. Zhua Qi also went up to the snake body. While searching for the demon crystal in the snake heads, Zhua Qi seemed to try to release his indignation by acting in a rough manner, as blood and flesh flew out from those snake heads. Shi Yin was observing them coldly. Baiming Shang and Zhou Zi, he apparently had planned all this, and were waiting for the best opportunity. Baiming Shang showed up while Qi Xiao and his friends were about to kill the snake and took advantage of Xia Xianyan using her reincarnation martial spirit to ask for a share of the plunder. That was really malicious. He conserved his energy by not doing anything, and by forcing Qi Xiao and the other 2 to consume their energy, he shared the plunder. Once the Gate of Heaven was opened, he would get more chances to gain treasures than them with his energy at its peak. Shi Yin took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He didn't say anything but observed the new groups while they were dividing the plunder. Before long, the plunder was divided. Of the 9 demon crystals, the Baiming family got a fire crystal and an yin qi one, while Zhou Zi, he got the other 2 yin qi demon crystals. Of the remaining 5, Zhua Qi got 2 poisonous ones and Qi Xiao got another poisonous crystal and a fire elementary one. Xia Xianyan also received a fire elementary one. The 9 demon crystals were thus divided among the experts present. Later, the tusks, skin, and saliva from the snake was also harvested by the group. Since there were several Sky Realm warriors, those rare materials like tusks were soon collected and divided. This time, the Shi family got 5 poisonous tusks, a piece of skin from the back of the snake, and 3 bottles of poison. This demon crystal of fire element is beneficial to your martial spirit. Bai Mingxiang threw his hand casually, and a demon crystal flew slowly to Diyalan. Diyalan was rather surprised as she looked at Bai Mingxiang with uncertainty and asked excitedly, Bai Ming family head, you mean this demon crystal is for me? The fire element demon crystal was indeed beneficial to Diyalan's blue magic flame, and it was from a level 7 demon beast, which was very rare to her. Bai Mingxiang nodded with a beaming smile. Come, train hard with the help of this demon crystal. I won't treat you unfairly as long as you are in my family. Diyalan was hesitant as she thought that the demon crystal was too precious. She was too shy to take the crystal, which was floating before her eyes. Here you are, Sister Lan. Put it away. Just then, Mu Yu Dai grabbed the demon crystal and handed it to Diyalan. Thank you, Bai Ming family head. As soon as she touched the crystal, she could feel the strong flame power emitting from it. Diyalan didn't hesitate anymore and paid her gratitude to Bai Mingxiang quickly. We are family. You don't need to say that, Bai Mingxiang said indifferently. Diyalan was a little panicked as she understood the overtone of Bai Mingxiang, but still, she lowered her head and pretended she didn't get what he meant, holding the demon crystal tight. She couldn't resist the temptation of the demon crystal. Shi Yin saw the whole thing, but he kept silent with a rigid face. Chapter 92. The Gate of Heaven Appears. Chapter 92. The Gate of Heaven Appears. Can we talk about the treasure map now? After the various masters divided all the valuable items on the 9-headed sky snake, the lord of the dark world, Zhou Zi, he suddenly spoke. The sky was slowly getting dark, and soon night fell. In the valley, everyone was frowning. Not a single person seemed relaxed. Bai Mingxiang and Zhou Zi, he both looked at Qi Xiao. Mr. Qi Xiao, you wouldn't refuse to allow us to participate, right? Bai Mingxiang said casually. Qi Xiao's expression changed. He was standing there and thinking deeply. He glanced first at Xia Xianyan, then at Zhua Qi, and felt a bit hesitant. Xia Xianyan was slowly recovering after taking a nutrition pill, but she was still far away from being completely recovered. At this moment, the opposite side had 2 Sky Realm warriors. However, with Qi Xiao and Zhua Qi only at 80% strength, it was predetermined that they would be at a disadvantage. Let's take it out and have a look together. We haven't been able to find the Gate of Heaven anyway, Xia Xianyan said in an indifferent and relaxed manner. Miss Xia Xianyan knows about onset and retreat. Truly you are someone who can achieve great things. Bai Mingxiang nodded, and then told Xia Xianyan with a straight face, Miss Xia, the Bai Ming family has only come for the treasure map. We don't want to make enemies with the Misty Pavilion. After this, no matter what the outcome, the Bai Ming family will never bother the Misty Pavilion even a bit. Xia Xianyan was from the Endless Sea, and with just being at the 3rd sky of the Disaster Realm, she could utilize her martial spirit to immediately reach the Sky Realm. This little girl was already this powerful. How powerful would her background would be? Bai Mingxiang held a lot of fear towards warriors from the Endless Sea. If not as a last resort, he didn't want to have a hostile relationship with Xia Xianyan. I also came for the treasure map. Not a single trace of emotion could be seen on Xia Xianyan's eyes as she spoke. After the business with the treasure map is finished, we will return to the Endless Sea. As long as the Misty Pavilion is not provoked, we from the Endless Sea wouldn't bother to come to such a remote area. That would be for the best, Bai Mingxiang said. I'll warn you beforehand though, even if there may be incredible treasure in the Gate of Heaven, it will also be infested with unimaginable dangers. Xia Xianyan hesitated for a moment, then said, There hasn't been an appearance of the Gate of Heaven in your area, so your understanding of the gate is only limited to rumors. You may be aware of only one side of the coin, and not the other. Any further details would be appreciated. Whether it be Bai Mingxiang or Zhou Zihi from the Dark World, they both zoned out for a second, then looked at Xia Xianyan with serious expressions. Indeed, in the God-blessed Empire, the Fire Empire, and the Merchant Union, the legend of the Gate of Heaven had spread. However, there had never been an appearance of the Gate of Heaven in these 3 nations, which is why when this treasure map appeared, It attracted the attention of so many forces. Qi Xiao, Zhua Qi, and Han Feng also expectantly looked at Xia Xian Yin. They were also full of curiosity about the secrets to the Gate of Heaven. In the endless sea, not only does the Gate of Heaven exist, but there's more than one. But every Gate of Heaven bears the greatest dangers. Xia Xian Yin took a deep breath. There was a rare seriousness in her expression. She said with a deep voice, "The Gate of Heaven leads to the God Domain. The God Domain contains unimaginable mysteries, but every God Domain is also extremely frightening. Usually when a warrior enters, there's a very low chance of coming back alive. Whether it be the fourth demon area, the sevenfold underworld, or the abyss battlefield, none of them could be entered by ordinary people. Fourth demon area, sevenfold underworld, abyss battlefield." Coming from Xia Xian Yan's mouth, the names related to the Gate of Heaven and the God Domain of the Endless Sea made everyone present in the valley astonished. They secretly felt stunned. "I came this time only to see what mysterious God Domain this Gate of Heaven leads to. Unknown domains could lead to terrifying and mysterious places that may devour everything. You better get prepared beforehand." Xia Xian Yin looked around and said coldly, "Inside the God Domains that have appeared in the Endless Sea, there were powerful beings that were as powerful as the spirit realm. And there were more than one of them. If there are such beings in this God Domain too, and you all want to rashly break in, don't expect to come out alive." Xia Xian Yan's words raised a storm of shock in everyone's minds. Whether it be Bai Mingshang, Zhou Zihi, Qi Xiao, or Zhua Qi, they were all suddenly stunned, their expressions aghast. Spirit realm beings? And more than one? What kind of concept was this? If the God Domain accessed from this Gate of Heaven also has a being of this level, who in this whole valley can say that they will get out alive? The entire valley was silent. "What, are you all afraid?" Xia Xian Yin sneered. "No matter what, I still have to go in and take a look." Zhou Zihi's lips were a bit dry, but after a long silence, he then said, "Or else, how would we know what's inside? Miss Xia is only at the third sky of the disaster realm and still dares to come. What are we afraid of?" When Zhou Zihi put it that way, everyone finally realized. Xia Xian Yin came this time obviously because she wanted to enter the God Domain too. She knew the dangers of the God Domain, but still dared to come. Was it that she really came to die? Thinking this way, everyone all felt that Xia Xian Yin was only scaring them. Maybe the God Domain wasn't even that dangerous. "I have said what needed to be said. You guys can figure it out yourselves." Xia Xian Yin nodded at Qi Xiao. "You can take out the treasure map now." Qi Xiao knew that it would be hard to avoid Bai Mingshang and Zhou Zihi, so with frustration, he could only take the treasure map out from his chest pocket. Bai Mingshang and Zhou Zihi hurriedly moved closer and gathered around the treasure map to examine it. The treasure map only marked one point in the Yin Valley, which is pointing to this place here. But there's nothing there. Zhua Qi scowled and said coldly, "I've gone around many times in the valley before and even used my soul perception to scan the movements underground. But there's nothing at all. Is this treasure map fake?" "Can't be fake," Xia Xian Yin said with certainty, but she did not explain. Everyone knew that she came from the Endless Sea, and her understanding of the Gate of Heaven and the God Domain was above their own. Upon hearing her say that, everyone immediately stopped worrying, and they all stared intensely at that treasure map. Each one was in deep thoughts and paced around in the Yin Valley, as if trying to figure out the location of the Gate of Heaven. Shi Yin was standing with Han Feng and Ku Long. He didn't get mixed into the business. He just coldly observed these people's reactions, and occasionally glanced at Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan. Mu Yu Dai and Bai Ming Su stood together. Sometimes they would both chat and laugh quietly about something, and sometimes Mu Yu Dai would simply press her lips and smile. Di Yalan was still drowning in happiness, her hands tightly gripping the fire demon crystal and her face full of excitement. The look on her face was clearly showing her impatience to start absorbing the energy in the demon crystal then and there, so that she could nourish her martial spirit right away. Time passed quickly. All the Sky Realm Masters in the valley looked worried. They frowned and pondered about the secrets of the treasure map, but no one could figure out the location of the gate of heaven. Soon, the day passed and it was night time. Twinkling bright stars appeared in the darkness. Slowly, more stars appeared in the night sky. And finally, an array of stars filled the entire night sky. Suddenly, the treasure map clutched in Zhuaqi's hand started to light up. Everyone's faces changed, and their eyes immediately went to the treasure map. The treasure map escaped Zhuaqi's hold. It slowly rose in the sky, higher and higher, and very soon it was floating in the sky above the Yin Valley. A mass of strange power suddenly rippled from inside the treasure map. The light of the stars seemed to have been drawn in by the power of the map. Like raindrops, the bright starlight suddenly poured down from the sky and onto the treasure map. Boom! The treasure map suddenly blew to pieces and a fist-sized clear demon crystal abruptly appeared out of thin air. A strange power filled the whole Yin Valley, and the demon crystal gleamed with light, clear and bright as a quartz. Inside the demon crystal was a sluggish-looking little person. His body glowed with light, and his expression extremely miserable. "Father!" Zhuachi suddenly screamed. He unbelievably looked at the little person inside the demon crystal and roared, "Father! I am Zhuachi! Father!" The demon crystal of the level 8 mud dragon. Qi Xiao also exclaimed, his expression in awe. In the valley, one by one the warriors raised their heads to look up at the sky. They all looked appalled, not knowing what happened. The little person inside the demon crystal didn't seem to hear Zhuaqi's voice. It stayed in the demon crystal looking dazed. The level 8 demon crystal became brighter and brighter, and a strange mass of power suddenly rippled out from it. "Ah!" Dialan exclaimed, and sweetly shouted, "My demon crystal!" The 9-headed sky snake demon crystal that was tightly clenched in her hand suddenly flew up and rose to the sky. At the same time, the 8 newly acquired demon crystals held by Baiming Shang, Zhou Zihe, Qi Xiao, Zhuachi, and Xia Xian Yin all escaped from their grasp. One by one they soared into the sky, revolving around the level 8 demon crystal that contained the spirit of the mud dragon. Colorful strange lights shone from the 10 demon crystals in the sky and brightened the whole Yin Valley. In the valley, the snake blood that bled from the 9-headed sky snake moved as if it was alive, forming into a river of blood that flowed inside the valley. The bloody river was like a mysterious paintbrush. With its metallic odor, the blood separated into different flows, and like a blood snake, it swiftly moved across the ground of the valley. Soon, with the blood of the 9-headed sky snake as the catalyst, a strange pattern drawn by blood magically appeared on the ground. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. The 10 demon crystals in the sky exploded together, forming into 10 beams of light, and suddenly drew into the strange pattern on the ground. The galaxy-like strange pattern abruptly flashed strange lights. The starlight from the night sky came down from the sky and also infused into the pattern. In the middle of the great galaxy-like pattern, strange lights quickly gathered together, thousands of light spots condensed together, and slowly formed into a blindingly bright door of light. The gate of heaven had appeared. Chapter 93, The God Search Skill. Chapter 93, The God Search Skill. Tianyun City. That night, black spots appeared in the sky above the city. Those black spots, as seen under the moonlight, gathered together and flew in the direction of the misty pavilion. Many skilled warriors looked up, only to find that these black dots were in actual some strange demon beasts. 50-odd black spots gradually flew toward the misty pavilion like a dark shadow. As soon as these black spots landed, many sharp-eyed warriors found them to be 50 black bats which were about 7 to 8 meters long with a completely dark body and long tusks. They looked as if they were creatures from hell. Each bat was emitting a black aura which felt gloomy and frightening. Seated on each of those huge bats was a warrior, his face rigid, stance like a reaper, emitting a bloody aura, as if one's life was totally in his control. At the front of the group was a huge bat, on which was sitting a scar-faced, middle-aged man. His scars were very hideous. The scars on his face looked were like earthworms extending from his face down his neck, looking as if there was a veil on his actual face. He was emitting a deep and bloody aura. Whoever approached him would want to throw up from the suffocating smell. 51 green-blooded magical bats landed before the Misty Pavilion. The master of the Misty Pavilion, Ku Luo, had waited for a long time with his people. As soon as he saw the guests, he kneeled down on one knee and greeted them respectfully. Lord Xiao, this is Ku Luo from the Misty Pavilion. Xiao Han Yi, who got down from the huge bat at the front, walked over at a leisurely pace. The people from the Misty Pavilion all turned pale and averted their eyes as he approached and could barely control their desire to vomit. One after another, these Shura escorts from the Yang family of the Endless Sea dismounted from their rides and followed after Xiao Han Yi to enter the Misty Pavilion. All the bats remained in the square outside the Misty Pavilion, watching the many kneeling warriors expectantly with their cold green eyes, treating them as if they were fresh meat. Being stared at in such a manner by the bats, the warriors of the Misty Pavilion were completely horrified and panicked a lot. Xiao Hani sat on the head seat casually and glanced at Ku Luo. What's the situation? Miss Xiao went to the dead swamp, since the gate of heaven was found there. The treasure map was completed. Ku Luo was anxious. I'm not asking about that. Xiao Hanyi's face turned cold. An invisible power exploded outwards within the pavilion suddenly. That power constricted Ku Luo as if there was big hand on his neck, and lifted him to drop him in front of Xiao Han Yi. Father, Lord. Ku Luo's family members all were horrified and looked at Xiao Han Yi in anger, ready to fight for their lives. Some of the Shura escorts coldly glanced at them indifferently, when one of them asked, Lord, do you need to finish Ku Luo's family? Lord Xiao. Ku Luo struggled, coughed, and begged in fear. Lord Xiao, we've tried our best. Give me some more time. We will find Yang Hai. Keep your eyes open. Xiao Hani stared at Ku Luo and grunted. Bang! Ku Luo fell from mid-air and dropped to his knees on the ground. He nodded in fear and explained, We took every man named Yang Hai to the Tianyun city, but none of them was the one we want. We are searching out of town now, and we'll get news soon. Give me the blood spirit crystal. Xiao Han Yi thought for a while and stretched out his hand. The blood spirit crystal left by Xia Xian Yin on Ku Luo suddenly flew out from him and landed in Xiao Han Yi's hand. Everybody except Ku Luo, get out. After getting the blood spirit crystal, Xiao Han Yi ordered calmly. All dismissed. Ku Luo signaled to his people. Soon, there were only Xiao Han Yi's people left in the room. I don't have so much time. Xiao Hani grunted and said indifferently, It turns out that the Xia family is really slow. So much time for a single person. Then, Xiao Han Yi caressed the blood spirit crystal and closed his eyes. Centered on Xiao Han Yi, a strong will pervaded throughout Tianyun City in all directions. Inside that blood spirit crystal, a red light suddenly manifested in numerous faces, filled with all sorts of expressions, appeared on the surface of the crystal. Their faces flashed like ghosts inside the blood spirit crystal, and none of them stayed for more than 3 seconds. The God Search skill. Ku Luo was shocked. The God Search skill was a mysterious tracing skill. Once one had the target's blood, flesh, bone, or even a hair, he could find the target with this skill. The better one can use his will, the larger the search area it could search. Xiao Han Yi closed his eyes, and his huge will power covered the entirety of Tianyun City. In Tianyun City, all the Nirvana warriors who had formed a will see could feel clearly a horrifying will see lingering above Tianyun City. Many experts in Tianyun City were astounded. This will was more than 2 levels higher than Baimingshang's, covering the entire Tianyun City, and kept moving further. At that time, all the experts in the 5 big families felt threatened. At this crucial point, every minister of the 5 families exchanged messages and started guessing what the Misty Pavilion was going to do. The God Search skill was continuing. The horrifying will see shook the whole Tianyun City like tornado, where every creature was tested. All of a sudden, blood exploded in the blood spirit crystal and odd light spots gathered, showing a fat face in it. The picture in the blood spirit crystal turned clear. That guy was sitting in a carriage in the west of Tianyun City, heading for the city. Xiao Hani suddenly opened his eyes. Who is he? Shi Jian's adopted son, Yang Hai. Ku Luo's face changed in astonishment. It is him. Xiao Hani quickly stood up and vanished. The next moment, the sound of green blood magical bats filling the sky came from the misty pavilion. 1 hour later, Xiao Han brought Yang Hai back, who had a blank expression on his face. Who are you? Humph. Has the Emo family invited you here? Yang Hai was kind of calm, but when he saw Ku Luo, he shouted in anger, Ku Luo, has your misty pavilion cooperated with the Emo family? What's going on? We 3 families work together to search for the treasure. What the hell do you want to do? Ku Luo smiled bitterly and made an apologizing bow, saying in embarrassment, different things. Different. It's good to see you, young Master Hai. I'm the leading Shura escort from the Yang family, Xiao Hani. Xiao Hani bowed. I will explain everything to you. Xiao Hani explained the story to Yang Hai politely. Young Master Hai, our family head is battling in the 4th demon area now, so I came to take you back. Since the family head threw you out of the 4th demon area, he has been worried about you. But he was badly injured and had to recover first. The Endless Sea? The Yang family? Yang Hai was shocked, confused, and unable to think straight. Standing there, his expression continuously changed as different ideas popped up to his mind. Just then, he remembered that test Shi Yin did on him in the gravity room. His arm was cut, but quickly recovered in presence of Han Feng, which showed it was an amazing martial spirit. Hearing Xiao Hani say such, he was sure that he meant it. However, he was used to living in the merchant union and Shi Jin was good to him. Besides, his son Shi Yin was here, and he was not a warrior himself. With all sorts of matters behind him, Yang Hai was so pressured that he didn't want to start a new life in the Endless Sea. After a long time, Yang Hai shook his head. I'm not going to the Endless Sea. I never trained in martial arts. It's too late to begin training at this age. I'm used to the life here and don't want to live in the Endless Sea. I'm afraid you have to leave without me. Just think I'm dead. Young Master Hai, Xiao Hani yelled, as a descendant of the Yang family, you have to fight for the family. After a pause, Xiao Hani added, although young Master Hai is not young anymore, don't worry, the family head had expected it. He had long prepared an immortal pill, and this royal level pill will change you entirely. It will be easy for you to enter the disaster realm in 10 years. Immortal pill. Ku Luo cried out loud and tried to persuade Yang Hai. Young Master Hai, the immortal pill is one of the 7 magical medicines in the Endless Sea. One immortal pill can really change everything. Even your talent will change with it. Young Master Hai, seize this opportunity. Royal level pills. Though the 3 medicine kings in the Medicine Valley were soul-level alchemists, they couldn't ever refine royal-level pills. Till now, royal-level pills had never appeared in the Fire Empire, God-blessed Empire, or the Merchant Union. It was said that one royal-level pill could change everything. Xiao Han and Ku Luo's speech made Yang Hai rethink. His expressions changed in front of the temptation of the pill. I never trained martial arts since I was a kid, so I can't adapt even if I became a warrior right now. After a long silence, Yang Hai looked at Xiao Han and said, my heart has died since my wife's death. I have no dream anymore. However, my son is in his prime age and possesses both the immortal martial spirit and the Shi family's petrification martial spirit. Although he hadn't trained in the first 17 years of his life, he advanced to the 3rd sky of the nascent realm. Maybe you could give the immortal pill to him. Shi Yin. Ku Luo cried out and said to Xiao Hani, Lord Xiao, Shi Yin is awesome, young, with potential, ambitious and strong-minded. 17. Twin martial spirits. In the 3rd sky of nascent realm. Xiao Han mumbled to himself while his eyes lit up. Where is he? In the Een Valley of the Dead Swamp. Ku Luo ingratiated. Young Master Hai, I will go see Shi Yin first. Excuse me. Xiao Han bowed to Yang Hai and disappeared in an instant, with his voice ringing outside the misty pavilion. Let's go to the Dead Swamp. Chapter 94. I'll go. Chapter 94. I'll go. Inside the Een Valley. An enormous galaxy pattern emerged from the blood of the sky snake. In the middle of that galaxy pattern, thousands of lights gathered, forming into the blindingly bright gate of heaven. All the warriors gathered in the valley were looking at the gate of heaven, but none of them dared to enter first. On the other hand, Serene was quite calmly standing beside Hanfeng and Kulong. He was secretly observing the gate of heaven, feeling joyful inside. He didn't get any of the 9 demon crystals that came from the carcass of the 9-headed sky snake, but seeing all those crystals getting destroyed made him immensely happy. But as he thought of the frightening power which could snatch away the demon crystals from the hands of sky realm warriors like Qi Xiao and Bai Mingshang, he was very startled and thought of prudence. Zhua Qi looked up into the sky. His expression was painful, and he kept murmuring under his breath, "Father, Father." One of the demon crystals that exploded came from a level 8 mud dragon. A level 8 demon crystal could sustain a piece of the demon beast's soul. So even if the body is destroyed, there is still a chance for resurrection because of the soul inside the demon crystal. However, the spirit inside the level 8 demon crystal was clearly lifeless and dull. Very obviously, it must have been refined by some mysterious technique, making it just a power source with no ability to think of its own. That level 8 demon crystal of the mud dragon had become a very important part in opening the gate of heaven. Although Zhua Qi was vicious, he still had a deep love and admiration for the mud dragon. One can only imagine the despair he must have felt when seeing the last hope of resurrecting his father getting destroyed. Bai Mingshang, Qi Xiao, and Zhou Zihe all quietly walked towards the gate of heaven. As they approached the gate of heaven, the more cautious were their steps. Mistress, the 2 giant men next to Xia Xianyan looked at the mysterious pattern in the valley and hesitated. These 2 seemed to know some secrets about the mysterious pattern. Xia Xianyan shook her head. She silently gazed at everything in a strange light and looked at the far-standing Serene. Serene was also secretly watching everyone, and once he saw Xia Xianyan's looking towards him, he was dazed for a second, then lightly nodded to Xia Xianyan. A complex feeling flickered through Xia Xianyan's eyes. She also slowly nodded towards him, but no one knew what thoughts were going through her mind. The gate of heaven has now opened. If you all are really not scared of death, then you may enter now. Xia Xianyan didn't move from her place, but saw Qi Xiao and Bai Mingshang standing motionless before the gate. She couldn't resist the temptation to mock them. "I'll go." Unexpectedly, Zhua Qi, who was immersed in grief, suddenly roared, "I'd like to see what exactly is inside." Then, Zhua Qi's body moved as fast as lightning, storming into the gate of heaven like a moth to a flame, and disappeared into the bright white light. Zhua Qi's shadow quickly disappeared into the gate of heaven. The gate only warped for a second and did not show any other change. It still maintained its bright shine, as if waiting for the entrance of another person. "Brother Zhou." Bai Mingshang looked at Zhou Zihe and pondered for a second, then said, "What do you think?" Zhou Zihe shook his head and said, "We're already at this point. If I return empty-handed, I will regret it for the rest of my life. If you want the riches, you have to take the risks." "All right." Bai Mingshang nodded in agreement. He hesitated for a second, then turned to Bai Mingsu and said, "Su, you stay outside. Inkue Jushan, you guys take care of Su." Pausing, Bai Mingshang then looked at Mu Yudai and Di Yalan and furrowed his brows. "What do you guys think?" "I want to go look inside." Mu Yudai knew that the gate of heaven would contain great danger, but she still didn't want to miss this chance of a lifetime. "Okay, you may go in." Bai Mingshang nodded. "Follow me." Bai Mingshang then followed after Zhua Qi and entered the gate of heaven. Mu Yudai and Di Yalan exchanged a look. They both looked determined and followed Bai Mingshang into the gate of heaven. "Mr. Qi Xiao, how about you?" Xia Xianyan said casually. "Of course I will enter too." Qi Xiao smiled. He looked back at Zhua Shi and Shi Yin and said, "Xiao Shi, you stay outside. I will go look inside alone." "Master, I want to go inside it too." Zhua Shi pouted and said reluctantly, "As a teacher, I'll go take a look at the situation first. If there are no problems, next time I will definitely take you along. Qi Xiao scolded her with a straight face, then said to Shi Yin and the rest, "What about the Shi family? Would you send someone to go and take a look too?" "Young master, I'll go." Ku Long stood up and said to Shi Yin, "I'll go." Shi Yan's expression was cold. He shouted with a deep voice, as if he didn't care the dangers in the gate of heaven. Deep down, he always had a daredevil factor, and he liked to challenge unknown mysteries. The very reason why he came to this world was because of his exploration of the blue holes. Of course, he wouldn't want to sit out on the exploration of the gate of heaven. "Young master, let Ku Long go," Han Feng said anxiously. "Don't worry, I'll go." Shi Yin shook his head and insisted, "I'm very curious as to what really is in the gate of heaven. If I don't go, I will regret it forever." Then, before Han Feng and Ku Long could try to persuade him again, he immediately sprinted towards the gate of heaven. "Young master!" Ku Long and Han Feng both screamed in fear, and they also ran towards the gate of heaven. By the time when they arrived at the gate, Shi Yan's body just so happened to disappear into the gate. The two exchanged glances, and without further hesitation, leaped into the gate of heaven. "You guys look after Xiao Shi," Qi Xiao told Wu Yunlian and Chu Ping. Then he also flew out and disappeared into the gate of heaven. In the matter of a few minutes, all the masters in the valley leaped into the gate one after another. Truly, like the saying, people die in pursuit for money like birds die for food. In the Yin Valley, the only ones left were Bai Ming Su, Yin Kuei and Jiushan on one side, plus was Shi, Chu Ping, and Wu Yunlian on the other. Then there were also Xia Xianyan and the two towering giant men. "Mistress, this is a false gate of heaven," one of the giant men whispered. Xia Xianyan's eyes flickered. She stared at the gate with the same expression. Right now the Sky Realm Masters were all in the gate of heaven, plus Xia Xianyan and the two were at a distance from the other two sides, so no one could hear their quiet conversation. "The false gate won't have the real God domain. This is only a small space created by a God Realm Master. It won't contain any unimaginable treasures, but it should contain the relics of the God Realm Master. Miss, why don't you go in? Maybe there's even the martial spirit inheritance of that person." One of the towering men said impatiently. "Don't you all think that somewhere there's an invisible hand that's manipulating this all?" Xia Xianyan snorted. He already arranged everything on the chessboard, and we're all just chess pieces in his game plan. We are all together, but still could not escape from his control. That old guy's been dead for thousands of years and still won't rest in peace. "Mistress, you're saying?" The Shi family's half of the fragmented map was probably obtained by Shi Yin. That half of the map was definitely together with these only a mortal level martial skill, and only warriors with low capabilities would actually go and cultivate it. That guy purposely set the place in the Yin Valley, forcing the one who has the to cultivate it to defend against the natural Yin Qi. Once the is cultivated, it would naturally swallow the Yin Qi here to form the Yin Pearls. Once the Yin Pearls form, the objective is clear. If the Gate of Heaven really had the martial spirit imprint, then only the one with the Yin Pearls could obtain it. Now is there even a need for us to go in? Xia Xianyan said resentfully. That old guy, he already planned everything completely. He simply won't let anyone sabotage his plans. This time we came for nothing. If Shi Yin obtains the martial spirit imprint of that guy, then he will definitely become one of the godchildren of the Three God sect. If he could go to the Endless Sea, the Three God sect would treat him like a treasure. Miss, the Three God sect is very powerful in the Endless Sea, and they're in opposition with us. If he really does obtain that person's martial spirit imprint, then he will definitely become the star god of the Three God sect in the future. We better take him out now. I know what to do, Xia Xianyan said coldly. The two towering men nodded and became silent again. In a place with pitch-black darkness, there came a woman's cold voice. All of you go to the Gate of Heaven. Catch Mu Yu Dai and assist the Lord to explore the mysteries of the gate. Yes, mistress. A group of pale-faced warriors from the dark world knelt down on one knee, with blank expressions. Go. The voice in the dark came again. Dozens of warriors of the dark world moved one by one, and soon entered the Een Valley. Without even looking at the people in the valley, they walked straight into the gate of heaven. The people from the dark world. Biming Su shouted with a low voice, his expression slightly changed. The dark world should have been guarding on the outside. Why would they suddenly enter into the gate of heaven? As Yin Kuei and Jioshan watched the flow of warriors from the dark world coming in, the look in their eyes became grim. It can't be. We have to go in too, or else Grandpa won't be able to handle it on his own. Biming Su pondered, and disregarding Yin Kuei and Jioshan's opposition, he also rushed into the gate. When Yin Kuei and Jioshan saw that he went in, they could only follow along without hesitation. Chapter 95, Desperate Fight. Chapter 95, Desperate Fight. There was a huge star river in the sky, which was exactly like the pattern formed in the Een Valley by the sky snake's blood. In that star river, every star was as big as a mountain, and the distance between the stars was like heaven and earth, hundreds of thousands of meters away. Under the star river were various numerous clouds, floating freely, and which were either formed of fire, chi, or poisonous air. Gray sky and gray earth. On the ground lay a huge statue with its back on the ground. The statue was of a muscular, handsome figure, and sculpted to be clothed with only a stone shorts. The heart area of the stone statue was shining with starry light. The starry light was attracting the power in the star river, and similarly to the light from the starry river was becoming concentrated in the heart of the stone statue. The statue was carved very expertly, such that even the hair and veins were shown in exquisite delicacy. If one looked carefully, one could even see thousands of black spots moving through the veins. On the right palm of the stone statue, a little ant was staring up at the sky with a surprised look. That was Shi Yin. After he arrived here, he was standing on the right palm of the statue, with oddly swaying plants all around him. Those plants, which swayed with the wind, were 10 meters high and as thick as a human waist, looking like the statue's hair. Although he didn't know that the plants looked like hair from up in the air. In his eyes, the right palm of that statue was 10 times larger than the God Stone Square in Tianyun City. Standing on that palm, Shi Yin looked at the mysterious star river above him and was filled with amazement. He wasn't aware that he was on the palm of statue, nor did he know how huge the statue was. He had lost his sense of direction and was of the assumption that he was on a small hill. 2. The Een pearls in the Tian K, Shun K, and Een Du meridians suddenly started spinning, while a mysterious attraction force came from the heart of that stone statue. Shi Yan's body shook suddenly. The heart area which attracted the starlight was calling for the Een pearls inside Shi Yin, and the Een pearls spun, as if urging him to go to the heart area. Standing on the palm of the stone statue, Shi Yin looked quite serious, and after a little hesitance, he dashed to the heart area of the statue directly. Meanwhile, the small black men on the stone statue observed for a while, and realized the heart area was the most powerful place. Therefore, after being still for a while, those people gathered at the chest of the stone statue. Those people included the warriors from the dark world, Mu Hui, Mu Yu Dai, Dialan, and Biming Su. All warriors under the earth realm were moving towards the heart area. Under the heels of the stone statue, Biming Shang, Qi Xiao, Shua Qi, the Dark Master, Yin Kuei, and Jioshan were suppressed by a huge power. Warriors above earth realm were all suppressed under its heels, unable to move even a bit. At that time, the group including Biming Shang and Qi Xiao were trying to defend against the power which restrained them. But, however hard they tried, they couldn't get rid of that pressure or move an inch. 2. The Een pearls inside Shi Yin kept spinning, while Shi Yin held his breath and dashed toward the stone statue with a rigid face. Beside Shi Yin, the hairs of the stone statue were swaying like tall trees and blocking his sight. He felt like he was in a jungle instead of the palm of the statue. Not knowing how much time had passed, Shi Yin finally flew from the mountain-like palm to its right leg. Shi Yan's rushing body suddenly stopped as he looked ahead on alert. From a deep hole in front of him, one after another flaming stone men suddenly jumped out. These stone men were 3 meters tall and were wreathed in fire, giving off the smell of the 9-headed sky snake. If one looked down at it from upon the statue, he would find that that deep hole was actually the Yang-Chi meridian on its right arm. The 12 flaming stone men seemed to be disgusted by the smell of life. Once Shi Yin approached the hole, they appeared and jumped on him. Taking a deep breath, Shi Yin kept calm to operate his petrification martial spirit, and his skin turned dark brown in a short time. After he operated his petrification martial spirit, Shi Yin triggered the by moving his profound qi all over his body. As the was formed, Shi Yin dashed out like a missile. Dang, dang, dang. Among the flaming stone men, Shi Yin turned his fingers into spears and struck the stone men. Which could pierce through an elementary realm warrior, emitted the sound of metal clashing while striking the stone bodies. The power of the fire went into Shi Yin's fingers when he touched the stone men and felt pain in his fingers. No. His face changed. Shi Yin soon realized that the was inefficient when facing the stone men who were not made of flesh. Boom, boom, boom. 6 stone men made flaming fists and punched Shi Yin together. His couldn't bear the attacks and fell apart. Under those fists, Shi Yin was driven back in pain. His clothes were on fire. Thanks to his petrification martial spirit, his body was not hurt except for some pain. With a gloomy face, Shi Yin could figure out that every one of the 6 stone men was tougher than a human realm warrior. That was not working. He had to take another shot. As his will changed, Shi Yin's left hand gave out wisps of white smoke. Negative energy was triggered and combined with his profound qi. They flew out together and formed a huge. With his will, the moved swiftly and suddenly fell in the center of the stone men. A strong power of attraction gushed out of the field, making all the stone men to struggle painfully. It worked. Delighted, Shi Yin enhanced the power in the field and focused to twist it. Pa, pa, pa. As the field span, one stone man was shattered into pieces and was thrown out of the field. Shi Yin was a little relieved before his face changed again. However, after leaving the field, the scattered parts of the stone man began to reform together. In merely 3 seconds, it had recombined and jumped at Shi Yin again. It was not killed. Realizing that, Shi Yin's face turned gloomier, and he triggered the field again to change its position. That stone man was wrapped again and shredded to pieces another time. This time, Shi Yin didn't try to kill them, but crossed the field in an instant and continued to dash forward after all the stone men were entangled. Half an hour later, from the deep hole of the stone statue's Zhigo meridian, one after another Yin Sha danced out. Yin Sha was produced by warriors' spirits which absorbed Yin Qi. It was a dead thing, but could use part of the warrior's martial spirit. It was aggressive and in thirst of more spirits. Those Yin Sha waved their claws and flew toward Shi Yin from the deep hole. After a glance at the Yin Sha, Shi Yin's face turned cold. Inside the Yin Pearl, wisps of Yin power pervaded and triggered the 3 Yin swirls to spin, and a strong power of attraction broke out. Those Yin Sha suddenly showed fear and escaped to the deep hole. You think you can escape? Shi Yin smiled coldly, and the Yin swirls span even faster. The Yin Sha struggled hard while being pulled by Shi Yin's Yin swirls, but still forced towards Shi Yin little by little. The more they approached Shi Yin, the more they were influenced by the Yin swirl. All of a sudden, one Yin Sha stopped struggling and turned into Yin Qi and went inside Shi Yin's chest. The Yin Sha dissolved in the Yin swirls and turned into pure energy which was attached to the center of the Yin swirls. The rest of the Yin Sha struggled in fear but couldn't escape the Yin swirls. They were pulled in and turned into Yin Qi inside of it. Quickly, all the Yin Sha were absorbed and Shi Yin continued advancing. At the same time, the same thing was happening at every corner of the stone statue. Bai Ming Su, Mu Yu Dai, Di Yalan, Mu Hui and warriors from the dark world also met danger when they headed for the heart. They were all trapped by the flaming stone men, Yin Sha, poisonous demons and mud dragons which came from the meridians of the stone statue. Shi Yin continued to rush forward. On his way, He came across more flaming stone men in Insha, which were taken care of by the same means, and then he came to the right elbow slowly. Shi Yin stopped again. Ahead of him were 5 warriors from the Dark World, who all were around the first or second sky of the human realm. They had been separated from the others by the gate of heaven when nigh entering, and now all of them were heading for the heart but smelled like scorched flesh. The 5 warriors from the Dark World also spotted Shi Yin. They turned back, glanced at Shi Yin, and came to an agreement silently. With cold eyes, they walked towards Shi Yin slowly. Warriors from the Dark World. Shi Yin's eyes were like torches as he spotted the sign of the Dark World on the bare shoulder of one warrior. Kill! That guy yelled when the rest separated to encircle Shi Yin in an arc. You are seeking for death. With a cold face, Shi Yin's eyes showed a bloodthirst. After a shout, he dashed out like a sharp sword. Dash! Chapter 96. Kill all the way. Chapter 96. Kill all the way. With white smoke engulfing him, Shi Yin's thoughts were all about bloodthirst, brutality, insanity, and terror while under the effect of the negative energy. There was only a single desire, and that was to kill them all. Standing amid the 5 warriors from the Dark World, Shi Yin had a rigid face. One after another magic snakes made of negative energy tried to intertwine those warriors crazily. Bang! One Dark World warrior scratched Shi Yin's chest. Hee. Shi Yin chuckled cunningly as he kicked that warrior bluntly. His 10 fingers were like spears and left 10 bloody holes on the warrior's chest in an instant. With that guy's miserable screams, Shi Yin stepped back and blocked another attack from another warrior's green light to his head. 3 formed quietly on his 2 sides and his back. Standing amid the 3, Shi Yin looked at the 5 Dark World warriors coldly. Want to kill me? Hee. I want to kill you too. Kill? Those Dark World warriors yelled and rushed forward together. The warrior who got 5 blood holes in his chest suddenly sat down cross-legged. Green thorns were triggered by him and shot from his palms. Profound level martial skill. Dozens of icy, needle-like thorns flashed through the air toward Shi Yin like lightning. Dang, 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 dang. The crisp sound of metal on metal came from all over Shi Yin's body as the couldn't break Shi Yin's petrification martial spirit. The badly injured man's pale face changed as he ordered, strike together. The other 4 warriors went to the 4 corners while Shi Yin was at the center point. For blue curtains appeared from above their heads like clouds and formed together before they thrust toward Shi Yin. The blue curtains had so strong power that they bound Shi Yin in an instant. The 4 warriors were delighted as they jumped up and took out weapons to stab Shi Yin. Field. Trigger. Shi Yin shouted. The 4 warriors were inside the invisible and were wrapped by them all of a sudden. Being greatly distorted, the 4 warriors turned stiff and couldn't even operate their profound chi. Deeply horrified, they didn't know what exactly had happened. Howl! Shi Yin shouted into the sky, his muscles trembling. At the same time, the white smoke became denser and all sorts of negative energies were triggered. In an instant, a vicious power broke out inside Shi Yin's body and flashed through his body like an electric current. In the howls, Shi Yin managed to break through the blue curtain. Boom! A huge roar came, and the big blue curtain made from the 4 smaller ones exploded into blue light spots. Shi Yin smiled cunningly and coldly, and rushed into one and thrust his into the warrior contained within. Pooh! Shi Yin's was thrust into the eyes of the warrior entangled in the field. His eyes turned into 2 blood holes, and even his brain could be seen. He died instantly. Shi Yin moved swiftly, crossing into the other 2 fields. Pooh! 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 The other 3 warriors were also bleeding from their eyes and died in the same way, in a very short time. The suddenly contracted. The last Dark World warrior sitting on the ground was terrified and hurriedly tried to escape. Do you really think you can run away? Shi Yin laughed coldly, while he flashed to the warrior and stabbed him in the back. His arm went right through the man's heart. Right now, all the 5 Dark World warriors were killed. Covered in blood, Shi Yin stood beside the 5 corpses, looking content. He was enjoying the negative energy flowing out from them. Soon, the five body dried up, while Shi Yan's meridians were filled with profound qi, and his desire for blood surged. Without any attempt to suppress the effects, Shi Yan kept activated while his desire to kill was strengthened. He walked to the heart area. Half an hour later, another two warriors of the second sky of the nascent realm encountered him. Without uttering any word, Shi Yan dashed over with a hideous face. Under the bloodthirsty effects of, he killed the two warriors easily and continued his journey. 12 Insha suddenly flew up from a deep hole ahead when they saw Shi Yan. Hee hee. Shi Yan chuckled coldly but in a happy mood. He shifted his swirls, and a huge attraction force came into being. The 12 Insha were eventually swallowed by Shi Yan's swirls and turned into qi. All sorts of negative energy was purifying and gushing out of Shi Yan's meridians. Ignoring the abnormal state of his body, Shi Yan kept advancing. All along the way, Shi Yan became a god of slaughter as he killed instantly as long as he saw a Dark World warrior. The Dark World warriors in this area were mostly at the third sky of the nascent realm or the first or second sky of the human realm. They couldn't compete with Shi Yan and were all killed by him. All along the way, Shi Yan killed 21 Dark World warriors, absorbed 65 Insha, and finally reached the right shoulder of the stone statue. Mu Hui's figure suddenly popped out from a deep hole ahead. Beside him stood 3 Dark World warriors of the third sky of the human realm. Inside the deep hole, 3 destroyed mud dragons were wriggling, trying to reconstruct their bodies. Mu Hui frowned and a slight resignation flashed across his odd face. These things are too tough and can't be killed. There are hundreds of them in every deep hole which keeps consuming my profound qi. Young master, someone's there. A Dark World warrior pointed to Shi Yan. Shi Yan was surrounded by white smoke and a murderous air boiled around him. The blood on him turned into blood cocoons while he smiled a bloody smile. It's you. Mu Hui was surprised and recognized he was Shi Yan, who always stood beside Han Feng and Ku Long. While Mu Hui was in the Yin Valley, he had observed but didn't pay much attention to Shi Yan. Rather, he was more focused on the experts like Shua Qi and Xia Xian Yan. Since Shi Yan was only at the first sky of the human realm, Mu Hui never took him seriously. Seeing Shi Yan approaching with a murderous air, Mu Hui was perplexed, not knowing what happened to Shi Yan. Young master, we have to kill whoever we meet. That warrior wore a plain expression. The earlier we kill one, the earlier we have less adversaries. The mistress of the Dark World has ordered that we even have to kill Bai Ming Su if we met him. One of you stay and take care of him. The rest follow me. Mu Hui nodded and ordered, then turned to walk ahead. 2 warriors followed Mu Hui quietly and left at once. That talkative guy stayed there, looking at Shi Yan coldly. You have bad luck? Bad luck? Shi Yan laughed wildly. Actually, I have rather good luck. Really good. You Dark World warriors fed me well. Hee hee. I have killed 21 Dark World warriors, and you will be my 22nd. Just then, Shi Yan rushed towards him. 2 minutes later, that talkative warrior turned into a dry, dead body, his head and body separated. Shi Yan sucked up his negative energy and continued to run up. 10 minutes later, Shi Yan saw Mu Hui and the other 2 warriors again. What? Li Tuo was killed by you? Mu Hui then took Shi Yan seriously and his face turned dignified. A first sky of the human realm killed Li Tuo, who was at the third sky. It seems you are something. Shi Yan didn't answer, but smiled coldly. His desire for blood was increasing rapidly as he walked towards Mu Hui step by step. Mu Hui was at the third sky of the human realm, but since he had a martial spirit and trained in high-class martial skills, he was more capable than the average warrior of his level. Shi Yan approached him step by step, but although he looked vicious and insane, he was actually cool-minded. After 5 steps, he acutely perceived that Mu Hui was a formidable adversary. You are already dead? Mu Hui stared at him and yelled. You are already dead. The 4 words struck into Shi Yan's mind like some mysterious incantation. An astounding power suddenly exploded in Shi Yan's mind. The 4 words conquered his perception and stopped all his thoughts. Kill him. So bored. Mu Hui ordered indifferently and shook his head before he walked forward quickly. The 2 warriors walked toward Shi Yin with dull expressions and stabbed Shi Yin with the swords in their hands. Dang! Dang! The sound of metal clashing came from Shi Yan's chest again. The 2 warriors' faces changed and they started to trigger more profound qi in their swords, then raised them to stab Shi Yan's eyes. The strong strikes on his chest suddenly woke him up from his confused state. In his eyes, 2 tips of sharp swords were expanding slowly. Surprised, Shi Yin shifted his head and the swords slipped past his temple. He could feel the coldness on the swords clearly. Bang! Bang! A boiling negative energy exploded from Shi Yan's shoulders. 2 bunches of pale light delved into the 2 warriors' bodies in an instant. Struck by the negative energy, the 2 warriors felt like they were being dragged into an endless blood sea and were being eaten by thousands of ghosts. They were dumbstruck. Pooh! Pooh! 5 bloody holes appeared on their necks and blood came gushing out. Shi Yin looked on coldly as he tossed the blood on his fingers, absorbed the profound qi in them. He coldly glanced at Mu Hui who was moving and dashed forward. Chapter 97. Grind. Chapter 97. Grind. Shi Yin appeared again. This time, Mu Hui's expression became serious and his seductive eyes flickered with some coldness. He bitterly watched Shi Yin who was walking towards him step by step. 3 human realm warriors were individually killed by Shi Yin, especially the last 2, who died after he used his soul martial spirit on Shi Yin. You're not bad. Mu Hui slowly took a deep breath. The result is still going to be the same though. You will still die in my hands. Shi Yan's expression was slightly ferocious. The negative energies in all of his meridians were churning like waves and wisps of pale white fog covered his whole body. The different negative emotions were rampaging throughout his body. These violent and murderous thoughts formed a dominating will around his body. The will was like an evil spirit that could destroy everything in its path. However, his mentality was clear and calm as ever. Under the conditions of, Shi Yin became very sensitive. He could feel the most minuscule details of the different essences in this bizarre world. He could even feel the circulation path of the profound qi in Mu Hui's body. The soul martial spirit. This was the most mysterious kind of martial spirit. Warriors with the soul martial spirit had the most formidable senses, with the power to delude people's minds with their speech. Their insight into the natural energies was also a lot broader than ordinary warriors. What Mu Hui had was precisely the soul martial spirit. Once he breaks into the nirvana realm and forms a sea of knowledge inside his mind, the soul martial spirit would become even stronger. One sentence would have the power to drive people to madness and put them into a situation beyond redemption. Previously, with one sentence from Mu Hui, Shi Yin was put into a suspended dream, in which his body became cold and stiff. If it weren't for the negligence of those 2 Dark World warriors, he could have already ended up dead back there. And because of that, this time when Shi Yin sprinted forward, the first thing he did was to securely guard his mind, as he didn't dare give another chance for Mu Hui to use the soul martial spirit to paralyze his mind again. The Shi family's petrification martial spirit sure is something. It looks like those 2 weren't able to kill you in one shot, and that's what woke you up. Mu Hui looked at the sword gash on the clothes on Shi Yan's chest. His long, thin eyes slightly squinted, and a seductive light suddenly shone from his eyes. That beam of seductive light became brighter and brighter. Then slowly, Mu Hui's eyes became like bright and dazzling gems under the sun. A flow of deluding mental power was released from those eyes. This mental power was like an invisible storm that suddenly covered the whole area. Lock! Mu Hui shouted. Shi Yan's whole body stiffened and his eyes became dazed again. The profound qi in his body behaved as if it was frozen and became hard to circulate. Mu Hui raised his right arm and green electric light shot from his 5 fingers which quickly condensed under his control. Soon, a long knife formed in his hand, shining with a strange green light. The long knife looked like it was real and gave off a dazzling and chilling bright light. Holding there was a confident smile on Mu Hui's lips. He slowly walked toward Shi Yin as if taking a casual stroll. Lube-dub, lube-dub. At Shi Yan's chest, the Een pearls continuously pulsed. Summoned by the strange light spots at the stone statue's heart, the Een pearls in his meridians became more and more restless. The traumatized Shi Yin suddenly felt a strange movement in the Een pearls. His soul felt as if it was in an endless dark abyss. It was sinking quickly, like it was going to be swallowed by the abyss and could never have its own individual thought again. Suddenly, the negative energies fiercely burst from the meridians in his head. Feelings of bloodlust, madness, and hate quickly flowed into the abyss and entered the mind of Shi Yin as it was falling into the dark abyss. Boom! His head suddenly shook, and Shi Yan's degrading mind was forcibly cleared by the negative energies. What? Mu Hui immediately noticed the change. The earth-shaking, terrifying power that projected from Shi Yan's fist exploded onto Mu Hui's and forcefully knocked Mu Hui away. Shi Yin, who was at the first sky of the human realm, with his one punch, managed to make Mu Hui, who was at the third sky of the human realm, to lose ground. Under the effect of this punch, which was accompanied by the different negative energies, skyrocketed in power. It was definitely not something that a warrior of the same realm could handle. This was just the beginning of Mu Hui's suffering. Just when he finally managed to steady himself, he suddenly felt like he had sunk into a swamp, and his body rotated uncontrollably. He was directly sucked into a setup by Shi Yin. Mu Hui's face suddenly changed. Hee. Shi Yin grinned, but his eyes were as cold as ice. He fiercely flew out. Crush! Mu Hui roared inside and an enormous flow of spiritual energy suddenly poured into Shi Yan's mind. Shi Yan's flying body stopped midway and fell to the ground. Mu Hui's expression was grim. The in his hand drew a strange arc and wisps of dark, cold energy flowed from the enchurned inside the gravitational field. The soul martial spirit was triggered again. Mu Hui kept secretly reminding himself to be calm. He put in all his concentration to feel the power change in the field, trying to figure out a way to escape from it. But there was a spirit-level martial skill after all. Plus, it was also formed with both the negative energies and profound qi. Despite having the soul martial spirit, Mu Hui still couldn't figure out any pattern in a short period of time. The high-speed whirling of the knot only slowed down the flow of his profound qi. It seemed to also weaken the sensitivity of his soul martial spirit. There were already traces of sweat on Mu Hui's forehead. His body kept rotating, but he couldn't figure out the pattern of the. On the other hand, Shi Yin only lay on the ground for a moment before the outburst of negative energies dragged him out of the dark abyss again. Shi Yan's eyes suddenly became clear again, and he sneered. He stared coldly at the whirling Mu Hui with just a change of his thoughts, he stirred up the Een power in his body and poured it into the once again. With more power added, the gravitational force became stronger. Just by circulating the negative energies and profound qi, that could already forcibly stop a warrior of the same realm. Now that he added Een power to the field, the power of the surged once again. A flow of chaotic power suddenly burst from the circulation speed of the field doubled. Pooh! Mu Hui spurted out a mouthful of blood, and he felt as if his soul martial spirit was in a meat grinder. A stabbing pain was assaulting his head, and all the profound qi in his body was ground into a mess. His defense became significantly lower too. Shi Yin held in his breath to concentrate, and his expression was cold and stern. He used all his will to manipulate the chaos of the was full-blown. The frantic grinding power violently tore Mu Hui's body. In the field, Mu Hui's whole body was splattered with blood, his flesh torn and exposed. The seductive light in his eyes also slowly dimmed. Chapter 98, Fattened Up. Chapter 98, Fattened Up. Mu Hui was shivering, and the flesh on his body was slowly falling off. At this point, his soul martial spirit was completely useless. he couldn't even let out a roar anymore. And at this moment, Yin entered into the. His fingers were like a spear, stabbing straight towards Mu Hui's neck. Poochie! Blood sprayed out of Mu Hui's neck like a fountain. His spine broke, and he died tragically in the field. All the profound qi in Mu Hui's body flowed into the 720 meridians in Yan's body. Mu Hui was at the third sky of the human realm, but his profound qi was much richer than other warriors of the same realm. The time it took Yin to absorb all the power in his body was also a few dozen seconds more than with other people. Soon, Mu Hui turned into a dry corpse and fell to the ground lifelessly. Yan's expression was calm. He closed his eyes to feel the profound qi that came from Mu Hui's body. Feeling the changes in his meridians, he slowly sat down on the ground. There was a swelling pain coming from his meridians. The continuous intake of profound qi from many warriors made his meridians sting slightly. The different negative energies kept pounding in his body, agitating his soul. However, this time the backlash in his body was not that fierce and crazy, and he didn't know why. As he calmed down and removed himself from the effects of, Yin realized his whole body was sore. But the overflowing negative energies did not overpower his mentality, nor made him fall into a state of slaughter and chaos. Closing his eyes and calming himself down, he felt the purification of negative energies in his meridians. Yin quietly tried to find the source. A change in his soul. After quite a while, Yan's mind flickered, and there was an answer in his mind. During the fight with Mu Hui, his soul martial spirit occasionally unleashed strange effects and repeatedly tried to pull Yan's soul into an abyss of darkness, to become a captive under the power of his mind. Whenever that happened, the negative energies in Yan's body would suddenly burst out. Those negative energies rushed to the depth of his soul like lightning and forcibly dragged his consciousness out of the dark abyss, letting him escape the shackles of Mu Hui's soul martial spirit instantly. Because of Mu Hui's soul martial spirit, the negative energies broke out again and again, using the dark, evil, negative powers to attack Mu Hui's soul martial spirit. During the clash, the negative energies that should have crumbled Yan's soul were mostly used up fighting against Mu Hui's soul attacks. The violent negative energies should have caused Yin to fall into a state beyond redemption. Yet because of the existence of Mu Hui's soul martial spirit, those negative energies became an aid to defeat Mu Hui's soul attacks. That means the soul martial spirit used by Mu Hui counteracted the negative energies that could have destroyed Yan's mind and helped him recover himself. These string of thoughts rapidly flashed through Yan's mind, and he was correctly able to determine that the reason he didn't face the tremendous backlash from the negative energies was due to it acting as a constraint against Mu Hui's attacks from his soul martial spirit. Deep in his heart, there were hints of violent and murderous thoughts growing, but these thoughts were no longer that intense. Using his strong will, Yin didn't fall into a state of frantic killing. Thinking through these things, he relaxedly sat on the ground and silently started to circulate his profound qi. After some time, the stinging in the meridians of his body suddenly started becoming intense. Under the tearing pain, wisps of pure, strange power slowly flowed out of his meridians, forming streams of warm currents in his body. After transforming the profound qi of the many human realm warriors, the extraordinary power that resulted was quite impressive. Most of the power spread throughout Yan's whole body and disappeared into his flesh, bones, meridians, and organs. Only a minority of the extraordinary power gathered in the profound qi in his dantian, making his profound qi much stronger and purer. Yan's heart was calm. He didn't first go and explore the change in his profound qi, but instead he sank his mind into the flesh, bones, and meridians of his body. He could clearly feel that the wisps of mysterious power formed into what was like a magical nutrient, and in a way he couldn't understand, it was slowly nourishing his whole body. During this process, Yin felt like he was bathing in a hot spring. Every pore on his body relaxed, and were all taking in that miraculous nutrient. His body was slowly, silently changing. Those mysterious powers moved around in his meridians, disappearing into his flesh and bones, taking root in his organs, and resting in his skull. He digested the information deeply. It was not the petrification martial spirit. Shi Yan's mind was crystal clear. He immediately realized the mysterious power that was nourishing his body was definitely not the petrification martial spirit. It was the immortal martial spirit. A realization popped into his mind, and Shi Yan suddenly opened his eyes. He quickly looked at his right arm. The right arm that was slashed by the had a deep wound. But now, the flesh in the wound was slowly wiggling and healing at a visible speed. The flesh and the meridians seemed as if they had a life of their own. Under the watchful eyes of Shi Yan, the wound that was 2 centimeters deep gradually healed bit by bit. The flesh wreathed together and the cells reformed. The wound slowly closed up, forming into a scar, then finally disappeared altogether. 10 minutes. In a mere 10 minutes, the 2-centimeter deep wound had been completely healed and not even a single trace was left. The place at which his right arm was harmed was now as smooth as glass. There was not even a single line, nor a trace of blood. It was as if he was never hurt. Shi Yan moved his arm and realized there wasn't even a single bit of pain. His right arm had no abnormalities whatsoever and felt same as the left arm. Shi Yan's eyes were bright. His face was irrepressibly ecstatic. In a span of 10 minutes, such a deep wound was healed to its original state. There was no pain and no discomfort. When did his immortal martial spirit become so impressive? Shi Yan clearly remembered that his recovery speed back then was definitely not this fast. Back then, even if his wound had been healed, he would still feel some discomfort and some pain. He would need more than half a day for a wound that size to be completely healed. This time, it was only 10 minutes. The immortal martial spirit has reached a new stage. After a short while, Shi Yan quickly and keenly grasped the key point. The magical upgrade of the petrification martial spirit reminded him and made him realize that after consuming so much profound qi, those extraordinary powers activated the immortal martial spirit just like how it did with the petrification martial spirit. And now the immortal martial spirit had entered a new stage. No wonder all those extraordinary powers mostly flowed into his flesh, meridians, bones, and organs. Turns out this time it was the nourishing his immortal martial spirit. Now everything was clear. Shi Yan's expression was full of joy. He seriously felt the changes in his body. Then after a while he finally calmed down and continued to sit there and circulate his profound qi. The profound qi in his dantian had also absorbed a part of that extraordinary power. Now, under the shifting of his thoughts, the purer profound qi slowly flowed along all the meridians in his body. Every time after completing a full cycle, the cluster of the most pristine profound qi in his dantian became more refined. Slowly, the refined body of profound qi turned into what was like a bright light ball. With every circulation cycle, the size of the light ball became smaller, but the power it contained grew even more. Shi Yan was delighted again. The change in the profound qi light ball was exactly a special sign of the breakthrough from the first sky of the human realm to the second or third sky. Starting from the first sky of the human realm, every time you reached a new sky, the size of the profound qi light ball in the dantian would become smaller, but the profound qi within would grow stronger in power. This was the process of refinement. Only when you refined over and over again would the impurities in the profound qi light ball be completely cleared. And only then would the profound qi become more and more pure, followed by the strengthening of the power it contains. Realizing that this was the golden opportunity to break from the first sky to the second sky of the human realm, Shi Yan didn't dare to hesitate. He concentrated with all of his will to circulate his profound qi. He repeatedly circulated and refined his profound qi. The impurities in the profound qi lessened, making the profound qi become more and more pure. In that strange space, there was no concept of time. After who knows how long, the profound qi light ball shrunk from the size of a fist to the size of a walnut. However, the concentration of the profound qi was 30% stronger than before. Not only that, the purer profound qi was circulating in his body at a speed twice as fast as before. Under his will, a wisp of profound qi flowed out of his fingertip. It was shining in dazzling white light. and there was a faint glistening tint in it, like some mysterious crystal. Shi Yin had a joyous look on his face. He looked at the wisp of glistening profound qi, and the smile on his lips slowly widened. Human realm, second sky. This time the warriors from the dark world really fattened him up. Not only did his immortal martial spirit enter into a new stage, he also reached a step further in his martial art realm, and straight up entered the second sky of the human realm. Lubdub, Lubdub, Lubdub. The Yin pearls from the 3 meridians of Shun Ke, Tian Ke, and Yin Du suddenly started pulsing violently. The pulse rate of the Yin pearls this time was much faster than usual. The summoning power from the heart of the stone statue also grew stronger. Shi Yan's mind flicked. He couldn't help but gaze towards the place where the starlight gathered. He suddenly realized that the light from the starry sky seemed to become disordered. They wandered at that one area like fireflies, but didn't flow into the mysterious place anymore. There was a change. Shi Yan's brows furrowed. From the strange movements of the Yin pearls in his chest and the unusual phenomenon with the stars, he could sense something bad was happening. Lubdub, 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 Lubdub. The pulsing of the Yin pearls were becoming even more lively, as if they were urging him to quickly hurry to that area. There seemed to be something anxiously waiting for him. Boom, boom. A loud thundering sound, even when it was 1,000 li away, still reached here resiliently from that place. The 3 meridians of Shen Ke, Tian Ke, and Yin Du suddenly stung in pain. He felt as if someone was attacking his meridians. His body was indescribably weird. Without hesitation, Shi Yin took in a deep breath, sprinted, and rushed to that place with his fastest speed. Bai Ming-su's face turned icy as he said coldly, "You finally can't wait." Immediately, Bai Ming-su vanished into the air. The next moment, Bai Ming-su appeared right beside them, and the polar ice flame turned into small bunches of flames and tried to wrap up the 3 warriors. The 3 were terrified and soon worked together to fight against Bai Ming-su. Bai Ming-su yelled and vanished again. Bang! A warrior of the 3rd sky of the human realm fell to the ground on his back. Then, Bai Ming-su showed a cold smile. "You guys want to compete with me?" Bunches of blue flames crossed by the frozen man who died quickly. Bai Ming-su yelled again and appeared behind another warrior and patted his head. "Pa, that guy's head exploded, and he died instantly." The last Disaster Realm warrior sat down in terror and tried to trigger more. Green needle-like thorns came out from his body and shot in all directions. "You are a Disaster Realm warrior, but you are not favored by God, for you don't have a martial spirit." Bai Ming-su smirked. An ice wall coagulated from polar ice flames appeared in front of him, and the thorns were blocked. The Disaster Realm warrior shifted his face. Without hesitation, he continued to trigger his thorns, which shot in all directions. He knew that Bai Ming-su has the teleport martial spirit, so he couldn't shoot his thorns in only one direction, although it consumed much of his profound qi. He wanted to buy more time for Mu Hui to arrive. Unfortunately, he didn't know that Mu Hui had already been killed by Shi Yin. Standing behind the ice wall, Bai Ming-su was not in a hurry. He watched that warrior like a cat watching a mouse. "I would like to see how long you can last." He couldn't endure for long. 3 minutes later, his thorns became less and less. To trigger the cost a lot of profound qi. Although the thorns were powerful, it consumed much profound qi. Therefore, he realized that his profound qi was about to run out. Why hadn't the young master arrived? That man looked around quickly and became more and more panicked. "You won't meet him." Knowing he was waiting for Mu Hui, Bai Ming-su said indifferently, "Because you are going to die." Then Bai Ming-su teleported again. This time, his body turned into hard ice and approached the warrior through the thorns. Under that guy's horrified eyes, the ice surrounding Bai Ming-su's body expanded, and he was covered by the polar ice flame. Kak. His body froze quickly and became an ice corpse. His terrified expression was also frozen on his face. Bai Ming-su raised his leg and kicked the man with a disappointed face. "Pa!" The frozen warrior was smashed into several pieces blocks of ice. His body was shattered. Bai Ming-su walked at a leisure pace towards the deep hole and frowned as he looked at the floating crystal. It's finally quiet. Taa. Just then, light steps came from afar. Bai Ming-su frowned with an annoyed face. Too annoying. These people from the dark world. It's like they won't even disappear. Turning his head back, Bai Ming-su looked to the direction where the footsteps came from. Bai Ming-su wondered, and a smirk climbed up his mouth. Well, how surprising that this boy is still alive. The Dark World warriors are all crap. Shi Yin stopped his steps and stared at Bai Ming-su, who looked gloomy. Shi Yin, it's really lucky for you to live till now. Bai Ming-su beamed. We are both from the Merchant Union, the 5 big families, so we could be friends in the future. Therefore, I don't want to kill you. Leave now, and I can pretend that I've never seen you here. You don't want to kill me? Shi Yin beamed. No. Leave. Before I change my mind. Bai Ming-su nodded. But, I want to kill you. With a smile in his corner of his mouth, Shi Yan's eyes still showed coldness as he replied, I have waited for too long. Bai Ming was surprised at first. Then he pulled himself together and said, So audacious. Never mind, it won't take much time to kill you. And the Shi family will lose hope if I kill you. My grandpa will like it. As he was talking, Bai Ming walked slowly toward him without using his teleport. Tada! Tada! Just then, steps came from afar again. Before long, Muyu Dai and Dialin ran in this direction in worry. As they arrived, they didn't even look at Shi Yin, instead focusing on Bai Ming-su. Muyu Dai asked happily, Young Master Bai Ming, you've arrived. Bai Ming-su bowed a little and nodded to them with a smile. Yeah, I've been here for quite a while. Also, I have cleaned some trash from the dark world to avoid troubles later. Well, you haven't cleaned up this trouble, Shi Yin stated indifferently, appearing somewhat bored. You. Hee, you are far from able to cause me trouble. Bai Ming-su scorned. It's no harder to kill you than it is to kill an ant. I'm waiting. Chapter 100 Endure. Chapter 100 Endure. The big Chapter 100. And as a big thank you to our readers, look out for 5 bonus chapters coming soon. After Muyu Dai and Dialin arrived, they said hello to Bai Ming-su first, and then were attracted by the floating crystal in the deep hole. They looked excited at the sight of the shining crystal and could clearly sense the mysterious energy from it. Every warrior was able to tell that this crystal was extraordinary. Muyu Dai and Dialin had suffered a lot to get here. They fought against the Dark World warriors, Flaming Stone Men, Insha, and Mud Dragons for the big chance here. As for Shi Yin, they just glanced at him once and turned away. In arrogance, Bai Ming-su walked over to Shi Yin step by step, without using his teleport martial spirit. Shi Yin stood still, seemingly waiting for Bai Ming-su to take action. He secretly activated his petrification martial spirit, and his body turned dark brown. Silently, Shi Yin blended his Yin power and profound qi, producing 3. Controlled by his will, the 3 fields gradually separated. He had seen Bai Ming-su's teleport martial spirit, and he knew it was a fierce martial spirit through Hanzhong. The 3 were prepared as a counter for the teleport martial spirit. Don't blame me since you seek your death yourself. Bai Ming-su raised his left hand as he got within 10 meters of Shi Yin. Blue polar ice flame appeared in his palm. As he threw out his arm, the blue flame became an ice bird which flew in the sky and left a graceful blue trail. That ice bird was so vivid that even the feathers on its head could be clearly seen. It was breathing blue flames from its mouth on its ice-cold face. Bai Ming-su looked on coldly with contempt in his eyes. For him, it wasn't too much effort to kill Shi Yin. Just as the ice bird flew near him, a cold light flashed across Shi Yin's eyes. A huge green light ball filled with dense Yin qi suddenly shot out from his chest, and it was intertwined with electricity and Yin power. Boom! The green light ball struck the ice bird and gave off thunder. Dazzling blue and green light exploded like fireworks while the green light ball and the ice bird cracked at the same time, turning into blue and green light spots. Bai Ming-su frowned in surprise and nodded slowly while gazing at Shi Yin. Good. You really are something to kill, Emojan. After saying that, Bai Ming-su's face turned rigid. More and more polar ice flame was produced by him. He looked like a bunch of ice flames, with blue flames gushing out of his body towards Shi Yin from all directions. A biting cold came from those ice thorns as they approached. Standing there, Shi Yin felt as if the space surrounding him was frozen solid. In the cold air, his profound qi circulated slower. When the cold air came into contact with his skin, his bones and veins were nearly frozen. At that moment, a warm stream suddenly flew out from his blood and bones. His body was defending against the cold automatically. The immortal martial spirit. Shi Yan's eyes lit up as he was secretly delighted. The warm stream went through his whole body like lightning. The next moment, he had gotten rid of the coldness. That happened in just a minute, and the thousands of ice thorns were merely an inch away from him. Wall. A green shield appeared beside him which was made of power, dazzling and horrifying. The Wall was like a huge upside-down bowl which protected him. The wall was so thin and transparent that Shi Yin could see things 10 meters away clearly. Although there was a mere mortal-level martial skill, it could absorb qi and turn it into swirls and pearls. There was a martial skill which utilized qi. With the help of the swirls and pearls, Shi Yin could make qi into all sorts of defensive weapons. Once the pearls were alive, he would have endless qi. The wall was refined from qi, just as triggering the. Once getting hang of the, Shi Yin found it could produce all sorts of defensive methods. This seemed to bring him endless surprises. Boo! Buh! The thorns thrust towards him and landed on the dazzling green wall, and their power was absorbed in an instant. Bai Ming-su's polar ice flame martial spirit couldn't freeze the wall, let alone damage Shi Yin who was under it. Shi Yin hadn't even triggered his negative energy. The wall triggered by pearls seemed to control the polar ice flame martial spirit. Nonetheless, he still felt that the qi light spots were decreasing quickly. The power of the could only be strengthened by qi. The power used for his wall could be consumed and not produced. Without qi, the power from the pearls wouldn't increase. But this time, Shi Yin had absorbed all the qi in the field and formed 6 pearls inside himself, which would let him play with Bai Ming-su for a long time. Icy thorns thrust on the green wall, and the cold air permeated into it, but this was soon digested by the power within. Thus their battle was a deadlock from the very beginning. Bai Ming-su couldn't believe that Shi Yan's green wall could bear the coldness from his polar ice flame. To him, Shi Yin could only endure for a few seconds. He didn't know that Shi Yin had advanced to the second sky of the human realm. Thus, he kept producing more polar ice, forming ice thorns and shooting them towards Shi Yan's green shield. Shi Yin had absorbed so much qi which had formed 6 powerful pearls. He was not afraid of Bai Ming-su at all, even though he was at the disaster realm. Furthermore, Shi Yin hadn't used his negative energy yet. Therefore, he was very willing to continue the battle with Bai Ming-su. Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan watched the two curiously. The two girls knew how capable Bai Ming-su was. Disaster realm, twin martial spirit, training in the most precious martial skill of the Bai Ming family. Bai Ming-su was at the top of the world. Though at the first sky of the disaster realm, Bai Ming-su could even win against someone of the second sky. He would even have a shot against a third sky warrior. However, while battling with this boy from the Shi family, Bai Ming-su's polar ice flame martial spirit couldn't even break his barrier. That confused Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan. Though Shi Yin had made great impression on the two girls in the martial competition in the Godstone Square, he was merely a warrior at the third sky of the nascent realm. It had only been 2 months after the martial competition, Shi Yin could reach the first sky of the human realm if he was talented. How could a human realm, first sky warrior survive against Bai Ming-su? Seeing Shi Yin unmoved under Bai Ming-su's attacks, the two girls were quite surprised and looked at Shi Yin with confusion in their eyes. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. After half an hour, the wall which encircled Shi Yin still could not be broken. Shi Yin looked indifferent but patient, happy to continue the fight. Bai Mingsu couldn't stand it anymore. After pondering for a while, Bai Mingsu withdrew his polar ice flame and stopped his attack. He said coldly, "I can't be bothered wasting any more time with you." A strange, red and blue sword was slowly taken out by Bai Mingsu. Sky-cracking sword. Mu Dai and Di Yalan took a deep breath at the same time and looked at Shi Yin in pity, assuming that Shi Yin was about to die for sure. The sky-cracking sword was a spirit-level weapon which previously belonged to Bai Mingshang. Bai Mingshang entered the Earth's core where there were thousands of fire hills and refined it with earth fire and polar ice for 3 years. The sky-cracking sword had 2 colors on it. One half was red and the other half blue. With the help of the sky-cracking sword, Bai Mingsu made his name in Tianyun City and never had an adversary. The sky-cracking sword was sharp, unbreakable, and had the power of earth fire and polar ice. Warriors who were touched by the sky-cracking sword would first freeze then burn. Mu Dai and Di Yalan knew how vicious this sky-cracking sword was. Therefore, once the sky-cracking sword was taken out, the 2 girls assumed Shi Yin was going to die for sure. Bai Mingsu yelled and appeared in front of Shi Yin with the sky-cracking sword. He thrust it in the air, and it gave out red and blue light. Chi! The Yin wall was cut into 2 pieces by the sky-cracking sword. Shi Yin was shocked. He immediately triggered his power and shuttled behind the. Meanwhile, the other 2 flew over suddenly, combining with the first one. The space Shi Yin around was twisted a little, seeming to be squeezed and about to collapse. Standing in the invisible house-like, Shi Yin calmed down, though his eyes grew more vicious while staring at Bai Mingsu. Shi Yin was waiting for Bai Mingsu to trigger his teleport martial spirit again, for him to enter the. Bai Mingsu turned out to not disappoint him, as he triggered his teleport martial spirit another time. Even if Ding Yin is the young master of the Shi family, he can't compete with Bai Mingsu. The Bai Ming family is more powerful than the Shi family. No, I'm going to stop them. Di Yalan looked determined and screamed, "Ding Yin, stop it! Young Master Bai Ming, stop!" Shi Yin could hear Di Yalan scream clearly, though he didn't make a response. Wisps of negative energy were generated in his meridians, and Shi Yan's power surged. He suddenly triggered the N7 marks appeared and struck Bai Mingsu. Bang, 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 bang. Bai Mingsu was struck 7 times in succession and was knocked out of the Bai Shi Yin and flew 50 meters away. Puh! Bai Mingsu spewed out a mouthful of blood and the bones in his chest were broken. That crystal armor dimmed and couldn't defend against Shi Yan's. After falling to the ground, Bai Mingsu stood up quickly with a pale face and blood on the corner of his mouth. Ding Yin! Di Yalan suddenly screamed, "Stop it! You 2 stop it!" Bai Mingsu stood up with a hideous face and carried his sky-cracking sword. After wiping the blood on his face, he viciously stared at Shi Yin. "Shi Yin, I will kill you and smash your Shi family." "You?" Shi Yin scorned in a rage and licked his lips. "Who do you think you are?" "Ding Yin!" Di Yalan screamed again. Mu Dai began to worry, as she remarked, "Ding Yin, you know the Bai Ming family's strength. There's no point making an enemy of Bai Mingsu." Shi Yin took a breath and turned to glance at the 2 girls indifferently. "I don't know you." Then, he walked to Bai Mingsu step by step. Every step he made, the space around him twisted. As he was moving, there was radiating out a suppressing power. As long as he was within the, Shi Yin didn't need to worry about Bai Mingsu's teleport martial spirit, and he was confident that he could torture Bai Mingsu slowly in the field. Bai Mingsu finally learned something. Seeing Shi Yin coming near, Bai Mingsu's face turned cold. Instead of using his teleport martial spirit, he sat down where he stood. The sky-cracking sword rushed out. In the dazzling red and blue light, the sky-cracking sword fell right upon Shi Yan's head. Boom! The sword fell into the field, and there came a strange sound. The red and blue sword shot out bluntly. Inside the field, the sword thorns were flying everywhere with its sharp, murderous power. Z. Sword wounds appeared on Shi Yan's body. The sword thorns from the sky-cracking sword were extremely sharp and like Mu Hui's. They broke through Shi Yan's petrification martial spirit. Spirit-level weapon? Extraordinary. Shi Yan was shocked, then moved out from the field while covered in blood, feeling hot pain on his body. Dozens of sword wounds were left on Shi Yan by Baiming Su's sky-cracking sword, every one of which was an inch deep. Teleport. Baiming Su suddenly appeared beside Shi Yan as he injected his polar ice flame martial spirit into his fist and punched Shi Yan in the back. Boom! Shi Yan dashed forward about 10 meters and spewed out a mouthful blood. Before he managed to stabilize himself, Shi Yan operated his Yin power and swiftly created a new Yin wall. As soon as the Yin wall was formed, Shi Yan found that Baiming Su was already in front of him and was staring at him with the polar ice flame in his hand. If it had not been for Shi Yan refining the Yin wall at his fastest speed, Baiming Su would have frozen him using his polar ice flame and blasted him into pieces. Back? Baiming Su yelled, stretched out his hand, and watched as the sky-cracking sword flew back into his hand like lightning. Carrying the sky-cracking sword, Baiming Su smirked cunningly. Let me see how you will fight back. Shi Yan looked gloomy, realizing that that was only effective on living things, but not on the sky-cracking sword. If he stayed in the Baiming Su could control the sky-cracking sword and attack him. If he got out of the field, Baiming Su could approach and attack him using his teleport martial spirit. Troublesome. Baiming Su possessed twin martial spirits and many secret weapons. He had the sword to attack and the armor to defend. Master Su, don't kill him. He is my friend. Dialin suddenly cried, as she realized Shi Yan was in a bad situation. Young master, could you spare him for my sake? Mu Yu Dai hesitated and also tried to persuade him. Baiming Su was not moved by that, as he shook his head and said calmly, I would usually say yes to everything you ask for. And if Shi Yan hadn't showed his horrifying ability today, I would spare him. But now, it's impossible. He is a human realm warrior, yet has so many secret martial skills, which threatens my life. And with him, the Shi family will have the chance to surpass my family. So he has to die. After the speech, Baiming Su didn't hesitate anymore and projected his sword toward Shi Yan's head directly. The sky-cracking sword flew like a shooting star with 10-meter sword thorns trailing it. The thorns exploded and fell in all directions, blocking the space. Ding Yin! Dialin cried in a miserable voice. Humph! Mu Yu Dai shook her head softly and pain crossed her eyes. Shi Yan uttered the 6 words. Among the sword thorns, Shi Yan looked determined without fear in his eyes. Under Mu Yu Dai and Dialin's eyes, Shi Yan's right hand kept expanding while his left hand became thinner and thinner. At the same time, 2 strings of different horrible energy exploded from both his arms. Chapter 102. Nothing to do with me. Chapter 102. Nothing to do with me. Life energy was circulating in his right arm and death energy was circulating in his left. The 2 utterly different powers of life and death projected out of his left and right arms. Facing the glaring sword light of the sky-cracking sword, Shi Yan, who was in the state, seemed to have incited all of the potential in his body. In the moment of life and death, his 5 senses became unprecedentedly sensitive. The circulation rate of the 2 powers in both his left and right arms was astonishingly high. The right arm swelled up and became twice as big as usual, while the left arm shriveled and shrunk twice as much as under mode. It was like a layer of skin wrapping around the bone, looking very eerie. The patterns on the 2 hands suddenly shot out bright beams of light. The 2 vast surging powers simultaneously shot out from his palms. The palms of his 2 hands separately formed 7 and 7. The yin flew out at the same time. As soon as A and A were formed, they immediately merged into one. In a mere moment, the 7 and the 7 all merged together into each other. The was formed. Boom, 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 boom. The 7 suddenly expanded multiple times. Like 7 shining door panels, they fiercely flew at the oncoming sky-cracking sword. Frightening blasts suddenly exploded, and the fiery red and icy blue luster on the sky-cracking sword abruptly dimmed. An unpredictable, mysterious power suddenly rushed into the sky-cracking sword from the hum, 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 hum. The sky-cracking sword rang in the air and was blown away by the force and kept tumbling in the sky. All of its luster was lost. Su, who was controlling the sky-cracking sword with his mind, suddenly became as pale as a sheet. Blood dripped out of his 7 apertures, and he let out a shrill scream. The sky-cracking sword and his mind corresponded to each other. The heavy damage to the sky-cracking sword had an empathic effect on him, and together both he and the sky-cracking sword were badly injured. For those who control swords with their mind, once the sword itself gets damaged, the owner will also be heavily injured. Clink. After tumbling for a while, the sky-cracking sword finally fell to the ground 100 meters away. Its luster dimmed, and it lost all its spirituality. Su stopped screaming. He kept using his mind to try and summon the sky-cracking sword, but he realized that the sword could not respond. Su was filled with horror, and for the first time, his expression showed a trace of fear. After blasting out the power in Shi Yan's body was depleted by a third, and he also felt quite weak. But when he saw that the sky-cracking sword lose its luster after this one hit, he felt delighted inside and his spirits rose. And when he saw that Su was bleeding out of his 7 apertures, he was even more thrilled. Mu Dai and Di Yalan both blankly stared at Shi Yan. They could not hide the surprise on their faces. Mu Dai even opened her mouth wide, her little hand covering her mouth, and stopped herself from letting out a scream. Shi Yan, who was only in the human realm, fought head-on, and was able to blow away the spirit-level weapon, sky-cracking sword, from the disaster realm Su. And he was even able to destroy the spiritual connection in the sky-cracking sword. What is this? Mu Dai was appalled inside. She couldn't believe her eyes. Is this really the boy from the dark forest? Mu Dai suddenly realized that she didn't know Shi Yan anymore. The currently arrogant Shi Yan became more and more unfamiliar in her eyes, such that she didn't even know how to handle her relationship with Shi Yan anymore. Ding Yin! Di Yalan exclaimed. She shouted, "What are you doing?" Mu Dai jumped and also said anxiously, "Ding Yin, don't act recklessly. Baiming Shang is here too. If you touch the son of the Baiming family, it won't be good for you, nor for the Shi family." Shi Yan's expression was cold. He didn't say a thing and chose to ignore these 2 women. He bound Su using the Su just sat there unmoving, as he couldn't sense the existence of the. In his moment of carelessness, he was trapped, and he couldn't escape the gravitational force of the field. This time, Shi Yan also added negative energy into the. Now the field had 3 completely different forces: Yin power, profound qi, and negative energy. The 3 forces mixed together, increasing the power of the field by more than double. In the new, Su was in an extremely helpless state. The muscles on his face trembled, and within the insane whirling of the field, all the profound qi in his body was bound. Only the polar ice flame's martial spirit remained unaffected by the. It still persistently flowed into the crystal armor and firmly protected Su's body. Shi Yan swiftly flew into the field. He swung up his left arm, and the formed from negative energy suddenly shot out and flew towards Su's head without hesitation. Crack, crack. A crisp, fracturing sound came from Su's skull. The devastating, deadly energy in the poured into his head and cut off his life force. Wisps of pure, vital energy quickly flowed out of Su's body. Soon, Su was turned into a dried-up corpse, and all of his profound qi was absorbed by Shi Yan. The field disappeared in a flash. Thump! Su's corpse fell to the ground, his eyes still wide open, as if he had died with regrets. He didn't even have time to shout out threats. Once Su died, his body shrank, and the crystal armor on his body was obviously a whole lot looser. Shi Yan took in a deep breath and coldly stripped the crystal armor off of Su's body, bluntly placing it in his backpack. Then he didn't even look at the dazed Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan and quickly left, also picking up the dimmed sky cracking sword along the way. On Bai Ming Su, these two things were the most powerful and left the most powerful impression in his mind. Whether it was the sky-cracking sword or the crystal armor, both were extraordinary treasures. Even if Shi Yin couldn't use them himself, he didn't want to let the two girls gain any advantages. Ding Yin, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. Mu Yu Dai said in a traumatized daze. She murmured, Bai Ming Su is like Bai Ming Shang's very own life. You killed Bai Ming Su. That means Bai Ming Shang will not only deal with you, he's going to destroy the whole Shi family. Ding Yin, you made a mistake. You really made a mistake. You're digging your own grave. Bitch. Shi Yin turned his head. He gave her a cold and stern glance and said ruthlessly, if you keep blabbing, I'll kill you too. What did you say? Mu Yu Dai's expression was filled with disbelief. She raised her hand and pointed at Shi Yin and shrieked, Ding Yin, I've saved your life. And this is how you treat me. Shi Yin's face was full of impatience, his eyes were cold, and he swiftly moved to Mu Yu Dai's side. Smack! Shi Yin's hand slapped across Mu Yu Dai's face and made her stumble back a few steps, leaving a bright red handprint on her face. Bitch, listen up, I don't owe you anything. If you keep rattling in my ear, I will make you shut up once and for all. Shi Yin coldly gazed at Mu Yu Dai, whose demeanor was a little insane. He said with a murderous look, you know how I am. I never give mercy when it comes to killing, and that includes women. Ding Yin. Di Yalan screamed. How could you hit Xiao Dai? You shut up too. Shi Yin sneered and gazed at her with a cold look in his eyes. When we parted our ways in the stone woods, we broke off all relations. You have no right to talk crap about me. Don't think for a moment that there's something between us just because I fucked you. You know exactly what you gained from me. I owe you nothing. Di Yalan's delicate body shook as she looked at the ruthless Shi Yin, and she could only feel as if she were in an ice cave. Both her heart and her body were frozen solid. Di Yalan tightly clenched her teeth, and she tried hard not to let herself cry, but bright teardrops still appeared in the corner of her eyes. Her heart felt as if it was pierced by a sharp knife, and the pain seeped into her heart. In this moment, Di Yalan finally realized how much she cared about this man. Looking at the cold expression on his face, Di Yalan finally knew what she had given up for the rest of her life. Ding Yin, you will regret this. You will definitely regret this. Mu Yu Dai covered her face and screeched hysterically, you will definitely regret this. You and the Shi family will all be destroyed by Bai Ming Shang. Smack! Shi Yin was just about to leave, but he turned around and gave another slap to Mu Yu Dai's face. His expression was dark, and he said in scorn, Bitch, you think that once you sought refuge in the Bai Ming family, Bai Ming Shang was going to take revenge for you? You're joking. Bai Ming Shang is a fierce and ambitious man. You think he was going to fight to the death with the Dark World for a woman? Do you know why the people of the Dark World are here? Do you know what fate you'll be facing once you walk out of here? Mu Yu Dai's pretty face turned pale and her eyes were filled with desperation. Finally, she made no more sound. She already guessed this possibility, but refused to admit it. Now that Shi Yin mercilessly said it out loud, Mu Yu Dai finally couldn't ignore her speculation anymore. She felt cold from head to toe, and felt as if all the hard work she put in was just an illusion. From now on, you both have nothing to do with me. Shi Yin heartlessly glanced at the two girls for the last time, and turned around to walk towards the pit. He said coldly with his back facing the girls, Don't get in my way, or else you'll share the same fate as Bai Ming Su. Then, Shi Yin slowly walked towards the pit. Di Yalan's face was filled with tears and her limbs were frozen, as if the life force in her body was all taken out. Her heart felt as if it was ripped to pieces. The pain pierced through her heart. Mu Yu Dai's pretty face had a red handprint on it. Her face was full of desperation, and it looked like her life force was also cut off. She stared aimlessly into the sky as if she didn't know where to go from here. She had lost her way. Xiao Dai, we've really made a mistake. Di Yalan's voice choked as she covered her face and quietly sobbed. Woo! Mu Yu Dai couldn't hold it in anymore. She finally covered her face and cried. She cried in the most heartbreaking of ways, as if she wanted to cry out all the sadness in her heart. Yin stood at where the pit was, his expression cold, as if he didn't hear the weeping of the two girls at all. He only furrowed his brows and looked forward. Lube-dub, lube-dub, lube-dub. The Een pearls in the Shen K, Tian K, and Een Du meridians pulsed even more merrily. After coming here, the Een pearls had been extremely active. Looking at the floating, glistening crystal, Yin realized this was what was summoning the Een pearls. The mysterious power coming out of the crystal must have been resonating with the Een pearls at a distance. The two sides seemed to have some sort of mysterious connection. However, standing outside the pit, Yin didn't know where to start. He had no idea how to get his hands on the crystal. He pondered for a moment, then tried to stir the Een swirls, forming Een Chi in his palm. The Een Chi slowly gathered and flew out of Yin's palm, forming into a giant hand made of dark green light which grabbed at that crystal from far away. Wisps of strange Een power were released from the 6 Een pearls. The Een power was like invisible strands of thread that seemed to also flow into the crystal. The dark glowing green hand slowly pressed down and steadily landed on the light shield of the crystal. Pop! Suddenly a slit cracked open in the light shield. The barrier that kept defying Baiming's polar ice flames now softened down by itself and opened up wide for Yan's dark glowing hand. The crystal suddenly gave off a beautiful dazzling light and slowly floated towards that big dark glowing hand. Chapter 103, The Space Collapses. Chapter 103, The Space Collapses. The starlight pervaded the sky and fell like raindrops, gathering on the shiny crystal at the heart of the stone statue. At that time, the starlight in the crystal was flowing in its pathway, shiny and captivating. The crystal floated up into the sky, slowly moving towards the huge black hand made of Een Chi. Yin was rather happy, and immediately began to control the crystal with his will, making it approach him. Dragged by the Een Chi hand, the crystal finally flew out of the deep hole and flew over near Yin. Bang, bang, bang. Great thunder came out from the deep hole. After the crystal left the hole, the crystal wall exploded and broke into pieces, giving off a dazzling light. The starlight in the sky dimmed at once in comparison. As the deep hole collapsed, the mysterious star river pattern in the sky started moving slowly as it turned vague, while the Een Chi, poisonous gas and bunches of flame clouds began to diffuse. Looking down from the sky, one would find that the mountain-like stone statue had begun to crack and dissolve. At the same time, between the statue's heels, the group of Qi Xiao and Baiming Shang could clearly feel the abnormalities occurring within the space, and the power that was constraining them began to decrease. Their expressions changed, and they immediately tried to operate their energy to free themselves from their constraints. They were trapped for a long time and had failed to escape after many ties, so they finally quietened down. But seeing that the space was going to collapse and the restrictive power was decreasing, they had to try one more time. The two legs of the statue were cracking while the suppressive power in the heels was weakening. As the pressure from the stone statue was getting weaker and weaker, Qi Xiao and Baiming Shang's struggle took effect as the stone on the heels began to crack. If it went on like this, they could get out from under the heels in a short time. At the heart of the stone statue, the deep hole collapsed and the crystal wall exploded, while the odd, dazzling light from the crystal wall turned colorful and slowly disappeared. Both the crystal wall and the light existed to protect that crystal, so when the crystal flew out, their mission was complete. That huge black hand approached with the crystal and it glittered with a dazzling starry light above Yan's head. That crystal was like the essence of shooting stars, containing mysterious powers from the stars. Looking up at the crystal, Yin frowned and began to think. How to take that crystal? Frowning, Yin thought for quite a while and guessed that the Een pearl had some connection with the crystal, so he would be able to touch the crystal. Yin couldn't help but stretch out his hand to catch the crystal floating above his head. Boom! The crystal suddenly broke and gave off numerous lights which burrowed into Yan's body. Wisps of cool starlight filled with mysterious star power went into Shi Yan's pores and concentrated themselves at his heart. Bang, 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 bang. Dull drum beats came from Shi Yan's heart. In the dazzling starlight, Shi Yan's heart strangely changed. The starlight rooted itself in Shi Yan's heart and became a part of it. In an instant, Shi Yan's heart changed as if it had turned into the crystal and began to sparkle. After a while, his heart went back to normal. The starlight integrated into Shi Yan's heart and gave off a cool air. Bang, bang, bang. Horrible blasts came from the heels. The group of Sky Realm warriors worked together and finally shattered the heels to escape. Those Sky Realm experts flew up into the sky one after another to see what was happening above. The odd space collapsed and the mysterious star river produced a light pillar. The light pillar fell from the sky and struck Shi Yan. Shi Yan, who was standing in the deep hole, disappeared at once. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. That odd space slowly cracked like a broken mirror. After the crystal left, that broad stone statue cracked, piece by piece, and turned into dust. Between the endless booms, the scenes shifted quickly. The group, including Qi Xiao, felt that they walked out from a broken mirror. From the cracks in the collapsed space, they could see the Yin Valley. In the Yin Valley, one after another cracks appeared in the sky filled with colorful lightning. Some cracks looked like star rivers falling from the sky. Xia Yin looked indifferent and mumbled, "It's been 7 days. We finally get there. Miss, do you think the original seal of the martial spirit was within? We will know when Shi Yan comes out." Xia Yin looked indifferent as she said, "But I don't think he will appear in the Yin Valley." Why? That old guy planned everything. If that guy was still capable, maybe he could send him to the Endless Sea. However, looking at the collapsing space, that old guy must have used much of his energy creating all this. I guess he could only send Shi Yan to somewhere far off in the dead swamp to make him comfortable for a short time. What should we do? Let's go. Leave the Yin Valley and head off into the dead swamp. Miss, do we need to kill him when we find him? Find him first. The three, including Xia Yin, had witnessed the changes in the Yin Valley and they had foreseen the result, so they left the Yin Valley quietly without informing Zhuo. Half an hour later, after Xia Yin had left, some human figures suddenly showed up from one of the cracks in the sky. Bang, bang, bang. Warriors below the Sky Realm all fell from the sky, and their heads were spinning. People at the lower realms, like Mu Yu Dai and Di Yalan, were bleeding heavily from their mouths and looked miserable. Looking bitter, Han Feng and Ku Long cried out immediately after they stood up, "Young master! Young master!" Bai Mingshang, Qi Xiao, Shua Qi, and the Lord of the Dark World, who were at the Sky Realm, floated in the sky and gradually landed while looking around in confusion. "Su!" Bai Mingshang roared and stared at Yin Kuei and Jiushan. "Where is my Su?" Yin Kuei and Jiushan had also been trapped under the statue's heel, but not with Bai Mingshang, so Bai Mingshang didn't see them in that odd space. Young master entered too. I don't know where he is now. Yin Kuei looked gloomy and anxious. "We were trapped by the stone statue as soon as we entered it, and we found the chance to escape only when the odd space collapsed." "Su! Su!" Bai Mingshang roared and asked in haste, "Where are you?" "Mu Hui." The Lord of the Dark World's face changed as he couldn't find Mu Hui and began to shout along with Bai Mingshang. Since their bellows echoed through the Yin field, Bai Mingshang and Mu Hui could hear them once they returned to the Yin field. However, they received no response. "Su is still inside." Bai Mingshang turned pale and looked up into the sky to find that the cracks had mysteriously closed somehow. The space had entirely collapsed. In a glance, Bai Mingshang realized this cruel reality. His face looked horrifying like an irritated demon beast, while polar ice flame came out from his eyes. "Xiao Dai, where is Su?" With polar ice flame in his eyes, Bai Mingshang looked to Mu Yu Dai in a rage. I. Mu Yu Dai looked dumb under Bai Mingshang's terrifying eyes, unable to speak. Bai Mingshang was impatient and his eyes glittered. He stretched out his hand to Mu Yu Dai and a bunch of blue light flew into Mu Yu Dai's body. "Where is Su?" Bai Mingshang asked again. As soon as Mu Yudai was struck by Bai Ming Shang's blue light, her face turned dumb and she lost consciousness as she whispered, "He was killed by Shi Yin." Dialan tried to scream, but as she saw Mu Yudai's abnormal look, she kept silent. "Shi Yin." Bai Ming Shang howled with all his veins protruding. He treasured Bai Ming Su, who had a twin martial spirit, as the heir of Bai Ming family and placed high hopes on him. Now that Bai Ming Su had been killed, Bai Ming Shang was furious. Bunches of polar ice flames flew out like clouds and tried to cover Han Feng and Kulong. Kulong was close to Bai Ming Shang, so he was immediately wrapped by the polar ice flame and turned into an ice statue before exploding. Han Feng's face changed, and after a quiver, he disappeared. "I will shatter your Shi family." Bai Ming Shang bellowed like a beast and dashed toward Han Feng. "Teacher!" Zhuoshi cried in fear. Qi Xiao frowned and sighed. He fought back unwillingly by refining bunches of dense fog which wrapped Bai Ming Shang's polar ice flame. Bai Ming Shang, live and let live. He knew it would be a long battle if he fought with Bai Ming Shang. After a little hesitation, he wrapped Bai Ming Shang's polar ice flame martial spirit and yelled, "Han Feng, let's go." Han Feng dashed toward the far shore of the Yin field like a ghost without any hesitation. At that time, he knew Bai Ming Shang wouldn't stop, so he had to leave as quickly as possible. He had to return to the Shi family alive and send them a message to avoid a massacre. "Qi Xiao, how dare you stop me?" Bai Ming Shang hollowed as if going crazy. "I'm gonna kill whoever tries to stop me today." "Hey, that girl named Mu. Have you seen my disciple Mu Hui?" The Lord of the Dark World asked Mu Yudai in a weird voice. He was killed by Shi Yin too. All were killed. All. Mu Yudai was still unconscious, not knowing what she was talking about. Zhou Zihe's face turned pale, and with the 9 angry flame in his eyes, he flew up into the sky and dashed out of the dead swamp. A strong will was suddenly released from his body, which expanded in all directions. He had kind of figured out where Shi Yin was. Meanwhile, in a secluded area in the Yin Valley, a black shadow was leaving swiftly. Dash. Chapter 104, Great Disaster. Chapter 104, Great Disaster. Sponsored by E. Espinoza. Dash. In the Yin Valley, Zhou Zihe flew into midair as he spread out his soul consciousness in all directions. He also slowly started moving away from the Yin Valley. Bai Ming Shang's expression was ferocious. He was just about to fight to the death with Qi Xiao, but suddenly realized that Zhou Zihe silently rose into the air. His mind clicked as he suddenly remembered what he saw in that strange space, and he also realized that Shi Yin might be somewhere nearby. "Qi Xiao, I will deal with you sooner or later." Bai Ming Shang clenched his teeth and his expression was grim, but he didn't attack again. He withdrew his polar ice flame martial spirit and flew into the sky, spreading out his soul consciousness to search for traces of Shi Yin. "Inkue, Jiushan, you two spread out and search the outer perimeter of the dead swamp. Remember, if you see Shi Yin, don't kill him. I want him alive." Bai Ming Shang shouted with a bone-chilling voice while suspended in midair. Inkue and Jiushan did not hesitate and immediately left the Yin Valley. Within a moment, only Qi Xiao, Zhua Qi, the people from the Zhua family plus the absent-minded Mu Yudai and Di Yalan remained in the giant Yin Valley. "Master," Zhuoshi glared at Qi Xiao. "When we came, Grandpa sure told you to take care of Shi Yin. You're not playing dumb now, are you?" Qi Xiao's expression was full of frustration. He shook his head and sighed. "I already tried to stop Bai Ming Shang, but now there are 2 Sky Realm Masters who want that boy dead. If I forcibly speak out, I will have to face 2 Sky Realm Masters, especially when these 2 are in a very angry state. If I cut in now, I'm afraid that—" "Master, are you scared of them?" Zhuoshi raised her head and grunted. "Xiaoshi." Wu Yunlian suddenly spoke out, and she sighed. "Mr. Qi Xiao is doing this out of frustration. With his capability, even against 2 Sky Realm warriors, he could easily walk away unharmed. But he's worried for us. Don't you understand?" Zhuoshi was dazed, then after quite a while, she finally murmured, "But what about Shi Yin? If he died, Grandpa Shi would become miserable." "There's nothing we can do about it. He can only hope for the best. Wu Yunlian's dark brows were deeply furrowed. She shook her head and said in confusion, "How could it be? How could that brat Shi Yin possibly have killed Bai Mingsu? Bai Mingsu had twin martial spirits and was in the disaster realm. What exactly happened?" Qi Xiao looked perplexed as well, but in his mind he secretly guessed that it was because of that strange space. While inside, he clearly saw that a beam of light poured into Shi Yan's body as he was exiting. That light beam caused Shi Yan's body to disappear into thin air, and he suspected that everything was related to that change in the strange space. "Hey!" Qi Xiao exclaimed, suddenly realizing something. He said in surprise, "If there was some sort of treasure inside, then that boy definitely got it. Bai Mingshang and that Sky Realm warrior are hastily trying to find Shi Yin. This must be one of the reasons why. Qi Xiao, I gotta go. From now on, you and I are even." At this moment, Zhuaqi suddenly said goodbye to Qi Xiao, and without saying anything else, he quickly sprinted out of the Yin field. "Zhuaqi!" Qi Xiao yelled. "What?" Zhuaqi turned back and said impatiently. "I know what you're thinking." Qi Xiao frowned and said dismissively, "If you really find Shi Yin, then it's fine if you get the thing. But I hope you would spare the boy. Don't take his life." The outer perimeter of the dead swamp was filled by all different sorts of plants. The swamps and the poisonous fog were everywhere. Besides, there were many warriors who ventured into the swamp. Even if Bai Mingshang and Zhou Zi he wanted to find Shi Yin, it would be no easy thing. But it's different for Zhuaqi. He was the master of the outer perimeters of the dead swamp. He could casually come and go in the swamps, control the poisonous fog, and all the demon beasts in the outer perimeter listened to him. If there is anyone who was most likely to find Shi Yin, then it would be Zhuaqi. "If that boy does as he's told, then I won't make it hard on him," Zhuaqi sneered. "But if he stays ignorant, I will be merciless." "Qi Xiao, this is none of your business now. You better not get involved. Hatred from two Sky Realm masters is no joke. If you want your apprentice to live, then don't give a damn about that boy's life." Then, Zhuaqi suddenly flew out and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Later that night, stars filled the night sky and the moon was bright and clear. East of the dead swamp, in the branches of a towering old tree, Shi Yin scowled. He blankly gazed at the starry sky, strange lights flickering in his eyes, mysterious and unpredictable. Inside the strange space, the starlight beam came down from the sky and landed on his body, directly sending him out of that marvelous space into this place. Once he landed here, just by looking at the poisonous fog not too far away and the swamps that were everywhere, he immediately judged that this was the outer perimeter of the dead swamp. When he just got out, it was still daytime. Shi Yin repeatedly checked his chest, but realized that other than specks of starlight on his heart, there seemed to be nothing else unusual on his body. The only change he could feel was faint starlight drifting down from the sky and slowly gathering at his heart. That was only during the day. At night, when the stars all twinkled from the sky, Shi Yan's heart seemed to have 10 times his current vitality, but his pulse rate became slower instead. However, the power of the stars in the sparkling night sky flew down from the vast starry sky and secretly flowed into his body and into his head. The star power at night was much stronger than the morning. He could deeply feel it. He could very clearly feel that the stars in the sky let out bits of faint star power, but the star power couldn't be seen by the naked eye. The star power that did not form into starlight spots were 100 times weaker, so you couldn't see their light, but they truly did exist. He didn't need to do anything, not even focusing his mind. Whether it be day or night, his heart would endlessly absorb the star power without the need for him to focus on gathering it. So after being curious for a while, Shi Yin temporarily stopped paying attention to the change in his heart. The reason why he killed Bai Mingsu was because there was only one crystal. Bai Mingsu wanted it, and he wanted it too. So when he showed his true strength, only one was going to live between him and Bai Mingsu. Shi Yin clearly understood that Bai Mingsu was the future head of the Bai Ming family. He was ruthless and had a lot of foresight. Seeing that Shi Yin was only in the human realm but with such power, Bai Mingsu wasn't going to let him live any longer. Even if he didn't make a move in the strange space, after they got out, Bai Mingsu would use every method possible to try to kill him. Bai Mingshang would have definitely done the same thing. They will be doing it for the future of the Bai Ming family in order to clear any future threat to the 100 years of supremacy of the Bai Ming family. Regardless if he killed Bai Mingsu or not, Bai Mingsu will never let him go. In that situation, what was there to consider? After killing Bai Mingsu and absorbing all his negative energy into his meridians, deep down he could feel the bloodthirsty, violent thoughts. However, when the starlight beam shone onto him, all the negative emotions that sprouted in his heart were instantly washed away, and it eased his fear of losing control. After his meridians had purified all of the profound qi from Bai Mingsu's body, in the afternoon of that day, some extraordinary powers flowed out. But those powers all flowed towards his heart and were deposited into the countless little starlight spots in his heart, making Shi Yin marvel and delight. Raising his head, he looked into the sky at the countless stars spread above. He could feel the faint star power flowing out from the stars. Shi Yin smiled wryly and shook his head. He closed his eyes to feel around. Realizing that no one else was around, he finally came down from the old tree and continued heading towards the east side of the dead swamp. The Merchant Union was at the south side of Tianyun City. If he wanted to go back to Tianyun City, he should have walked south, but now he was walking east. The east was the direction towards the endless sea. He never planned to return to the Merchant Union at all. Even if Bai Mingsu and Mu Hui hadn't died, but because he obtained the crystal, the Sky Realm Masters in the Yin Valley would not let him go. Shi Yin knew this in his heart. Although the Shi family was one of the great 5 families in the Merchant Union, it had no Sky Realm Master, so it will be hard for them to shield him. If he returned to the Shi family, he would have brought a great disaster onto them, and because of him, the Shi family might be killed off entirely. He knew deep in his heart that he was their true target. From Xia Xian Yin, he had heard about many of the mysteries in the Endless Sea, and he knew that the Endless Sea was the center in which many warriors gathered. It was many countless times bigger than the Merchant Union, the Fire Empire, and the God-blessed Empire. And within it, there were countless strong figures. That was his true destination. While it was still dark out, he carefully released his soul consciousness and secretly scouted around. Determined, Shi Yin walked towards the east. Still nothing. South of the dead swamp, Bai Mingshang's face was grim, and his expression was dark and scary. Not far away, the Lord of the Dark World, Zhou Zihe, was also murderous-looking. These days, we've already searched everywhere in this area. Any active warriors or mercenaries in this area were all identified with our soul consciousness, but we found nothing. Could it be that the kid didn't return to Tianyun City? Didn't return to Tianyun City, Bai Mingshang frowned and said coldly, "It seems that we have to change directions. I'll go to the east. The rest is up to you." Then, Bai Mingshang suddenly flew out and went towards the east of the dead swamp. "Miss, if that guy were in the dead swamp, shouldn't he be in the south? If he doesn't go back to Tianyun City, then he will never get any protection." On the east side of the dead swamp, beside a waterhole, Giant Man next to Xia Xian Yin said confusedly, "Go back to Tianyun City?" Xia Xian Yin stretched the corners of her lips. "What's the use of going back? The Shi family doesn't even have a Sky Realm Master. Not only would he not get any protection, he will bring disaster to the Shi family. If I were him, I would never return to the Shi family before reaching the Sky Realm. Instead, it would be better to go as far away from the Shi family as possible." While saying this, Xia Xian Yin knelt down and washed her face next in a stream. Then she finally stood up and said, "Let's go to the east side. The east just happens to be the direction of the Endless Sea. If we really can't find him, then we can just directly return to the Endless Sea." Understood. The 2 giant men nodded together. Hum, hum, hum. At this moment, a strange humming sound came from Xia Xian Yan's pocket. Her beautiful face changed slightly, and she couldn't help but take out a windcheam from her pocket. She stared at the windcheam for a second, and then said in surprise, "The Shura King Shao Han Yi will be here soon." Ah, why would the Shura King come to the dead swamp? Isn't he trying to find Yang Hai? I don't know either. Xia Xianyin shook her head and said casually, but it's fine. Xiao Han Yi is at the second sky of the sky realm, and what he's cultivating is the evil blood path of the 5 Shura paths. If he stirs the evil in his blood, then he would have the power of a third sky realm warrior. These sky realm masters in the Dead Swamp are all still at the first sky. Once Xiaohani gets here, those people will probably calm down. Or else with the Shura King's temper, I'm afraid those people would be in the worst of luck. The 3 Shura Kings of the Yang family are all lunatics. Miss, you should be careful and make sure you don't cross his line. I know what I'm doing. Chapter 105, The Star Martial Spirit. Chapter 105, The Star Martial Spirit. Sponsored by M. Jackson. Shi Yin kept moving east. The Dead Swamp was wreathed in poisonous gas and covered by swamps. To walk in this area, one must be cautious, or else he would sink into the mud or be attacked by demon beasts. It was quite secluded to the east of the Dead Swamp, so warriors barely showed up in this area. All along the way, Shi Yin met some mercenaries who were searching for demon beasts and special herbs. They were almost at nascent and human realm, rather low levels. Shi Yin wanted to leave the Dead Swamp quickly, so he didn't want any conflict with those mercenaries. He avoided meeting them so that they wouldn't remember his face and leak his trail to Baiming Shang. That night, after careful thought, Shi Yin took out Baiming Su's sky-cracking sword and ice armor from his bag. He threw them into the green swamp and watched them be devoured by the dirty water within. The sky-cracking sword and ice armor were both extraordinary weapons refined by Baiming Shang. The sky-cracking sword and ice armor contained Baiming Shang's perception, who may have sensed them within a certain distance. Although knowing that the sky-cracking sword and the ice armor were rather precious, Shi Yin still abandoned them to protect himself. The poisonous gas in the swamp was strongly corrosive, which Shi Yin had already tested, so he believed that Baiming Shang wouldn't be able to sense them once they were devoured by the poisonous gas. After that, Shi Yin continued to move eastward. At night, 3 days later, standing among the bushes, Shi Yin hid his scent and quietly gazed ahead of him. The sound of a brutal battle came from the wetland ahead, of which one side was much stronger than the other. Although Shi Yin was very curious, he didn't go and watch. He decided to go eastward when the battle had finished. A quarter of an hour later, the battle ahead quieted down. Shi Yin still didn't move. After half an hour, assuming that they might have left, he walked out of the bushes towards that wetland. Swamps surrounded the 2 sides of the wetland, but Shi Yin had to cross that wetland to go eastward. When he got there, Shi Yin found there were 7 or 8 corpses on the ground. Their profound qi had already evaporated into the air, so he didn't get anything. The corpses all belonged to the same mercenary union, as their armors looked similar. From the wounds on their dismembered bodies, they seemed to have been attacked by demon beasts as they were torn apart. He stared at those corpses for a while and found he couldn't get any benefit, so he sped up to leave without further exploration. Well, it turns out you did pick this way. At that time, Xia Xianyan's voice came from the bushes beside him. Just then, Xia Xianyan's beautiful figure, with her face behind the veil, walked out from behind the bushes. Behind her, the 2 huge, towering men were wiping the blood off their hands with a gray rag. Your people killed them? Shi Yin asked her calmly.
Yes.
Xia Xianyan nodded without further explanation about why the mercenaries were killed. She looked at Shi Yin with her beautiful eyes and said, You turned out to get the original seal of Ouyangji's star martial spirit. Ouyangji? Shi Yan's face changed. Who is he? He was the guy who created the fake gate of heaven and left the original seal of his martial spirit. Ouyangji was a legend from 1,000 years ago in the Endless Sea and was the star god of the 3 God sect. He had reached the 3rd sky of the spirit realm, just a step from the true god realm. Xia Xianyan said slowly. The 3 God sect? The star god? What on earth is that? Shi Yin cried in surprise. 1,000 years ago, The three gods of the three-god sect entered the seventh dark world together and fought against Avi Dark King in the Dark Sea. However, they were entangled in the Avi Hell by 30 million soldiers, which resulted in the most brutal battle the seventh dark world had seen in a millennium. The three-god sect lost a lot from that battle and many disciples died. After that battle, only the sun god came back from the seventh dark world while the other two gods disappeared. However, only 5 million of Avi Dark King's troops survived, and Avi Dark King was badly hurt and has never appeared from the bottom of the Dark Sea for the past 1,000 years. The three gods of the sun, moon, and star? The seventh dark world? The Avi Dark King? Shi Yin was so confused that he shook his head. You mean the gate of heaven was created by one of the three gods, the star god?
Yes.
Xia Xian Yin nodded softly. After that battle, many people thought that the moon god and star god were dead, since they never showed up again in the endless sea. According to the fake gate of heaven and strange phenomenon in the Yin Valley, Ouyang must have died of his injuries. However, no one knows how he reached here, killed the level 8 mud dragon, created this fake gate of heaven and god domain, and left the original seal of his martial spirit. The original seal of his martial spirit. Shi Yin yelled, looked at his heart area, before a dazzling light crossed his face. The original seal of a martial spirit is an imprint of a martial spirit, so people can receive the martial spirit from inside an original seal. Those God Realm experts could turn their martial spirits into original seals so that someone would continue to carry his martial spirit. The star martial spirit's typical sign is that there were spots like stars in the heart area which formed a miniature star river. Xia Xian Yin explained. This is a martial spirit? Shi Yan's eyes lit up as he looked at his heart area in surprise. It's not only a martial spirit, but a sacred-level martial spirit, Xia Xian Yin confirmed. A sacred-level martial spirit? Shi Yin was dumbstruck. There are levels for martial spirits? Sure. According to its power and number of evolutions, martial spirits can be divided into mortal, profound, spirit, sacred, and god levels. For example, the three martial spirits, the sun, moon, and star, of the three god sect are all sacred-level martial spirits. The reincarnation martial spirit of my Xia family is also a sacred-level martial spirit. There are too few martial spirits in your area, so they are not divided into different categories. In the Endless Sea, there are all sorts of martial spirits, and each of them have special features and powers. If they were not sorted into different levels, who would know which martial spirit is more powerful or has more room for development? So what level is the petrification martial spirit from the Shi family? I'm not sure without any accurate test, but I think it is spirit-level martial spirit at best. I've never heard of a sacred-level martial spirit appearing in this area. Apart from its power, you will have to see how many times it can evolve and situation regarding its evolution. The details are complicated. In the Endless Sea, there are martial spirit palaces to estimate the level of a martial spirit. Are sacred-level martial spirits rare? Of course. Sacred-level martial spirits are the highest martial spirits in the Endless Sea. The families who own sacred-level martial spirits are all influential powers in the Endless Sea. So do you think sacred-level martial spirits are rare? You mean, I got something awesome this time? What do you think? Miss Ya, thank you for telling me so much. I want to go to the Endless Sea. Are we traveling the same way? Xia Xian Yin suddenly quieted down. There would be no conflict between Shi Yin and Xia Xian Yin if he didn't go to the Endless Sea. However, once Shi Yin entered the Endless Sea and the message got out that he owned the star martial spirit, the three god sect would definitely find him at all costs. They would make him the god son of the sect and provided him with the best training resources. The three god sect and Xia family have many disputes. Shi Yan's star martial spirit would make him an expert in the three god sect. Once he went to the Endless Sea, the Xia family would have a formidable adversary. Miss, the two huge tower-like men reminded her in a soft voice. You really want to go to the Endless Sea? Xia Xian Yin gazed at him with complicated look in her glittering eyes. Shi Yin was a little surprised, but couldn't figure out what was going on in Xia Xian Yin's mind. So he thought for a while and smiled bitterly. Do you think I can still stay in Tianyun City instead of going to the Endless Sea? You know Bai Mingshang's power in the Merchant Union. Not only myself, but my family would meet with disaster. I don't have any other choice. Well, to be honest, Xia Xian Yin paused and said, my Xia family and the Three Gods sect are adversaries. With your star martial spirit, you would become an important person in the Three Gods sect once you go to the Endless Sea. In the future, you will be my enemy, and formidable one at that. Shi Yin stiffened and took a few steps back to keep his distance from the three people in front of him. Smiling coldly, he asked, well, are you three waiting here for me to eradicate any future trouble? Miss Xia, I don't know why you are talking to me. You want me to be a ghost who knows everything? The two towering men walked out from behind Xia Xian Yin and moved to both sides of Shi Yin with cold eyes. They were preparing to attack Shi Yin. Hold on. Xia Xian Yin frowned and stopped the two towering men, then looked to Shi Yin. You can attach yourself to the Xia family first. I will plant some poison inside you, and then send you to the Three Gods sect to learn their secret skills. Regardless of how high a position you have in the future within the Three Gods sect, you will always be a member of my Xia family, okay? Going to the Three Gods sect as a spy of the Xia family? Shi Yin smirked. Spy? This sounds good. Yeah, more or less. What do you think? Xia Xian Yin focused her eyes on him. As long as you comply, I will help you. Learn secret skills in the Three Gods sect and not fight against my Xia family. I swear I won't hurt you. Okay, I'm in. Dash. Chapter 106, Godchild. Chapter 106, Godchild. Sponsored by M. Jackson. Dash. Shi Yin had to promise her. Xia Xian Yin had made it clear that the Three Gods sect and the Xia family were adversaries. As she had waited in the Yin Valley after she knew that the fake gate of heaven was created by Ouyang Ji, her purpose was obvious. After leaving the Yin Valley, Xia Xian Yin assumed that Shi Yin would be here, so she waited for him. Or maybe she had come up with this idea when she was still in the Yin Valley. For Shi Yin, as long as he survived, he would have boundless opportunities. He didn't take the poison that Xia Xian Yin had mentioned seriously, as he believed that his immortal martial spirit could easily defend against that toxin. Furthermore, since it was a long way to the Endless Sea, there was a chance that Bai Mingshang would find him, so it was safer to travel with Xia Xian Yin. He would put the past behind him for the moment. He would have the chance to fight back as long as he survived. Since Xia Xian Yin explained her purpose, the two towering men then let Shi Yin go, admiring Xia Xian Yan's ability to take advantage of the situation. Once Shi Yin was attached to the Xia family and then became a godchild of the Three Gods sect, they would know everything about the Three Gods sect. Even the two dumb, huge men knew what it meant. Shi Yin would be more useful to the Xia family alive than dead. The next 2 days, Shi Yin smoothly traveled east with the three people. Having Shi Yin's promise, Xia Xian Yin was delighted and continued to explain to him about the Three Gods sect. The Three Gods sect was a huge power in the Endless Sea and had numerous disciples. The core disciples had the ability to absorb the energy from the sun, moon, and stars from their martial spirits. The Three Gods sect had 3 martial spirits: the sun martial spirit, the moon martial spirit, and the star martial spirit. The 3 martial spirits could absorb the light from the sun, moon, and stars. Warriors who possessed the star martial spirit were the rarest. Thus, the star martial spirit was considered to be the most powerful one among the 3. There was only 1 sun and 1 moon in the Grace mainland, while the stars were numerous. Their combined power was much stronger than the sun or the moon. The Three Gods sect was very mysterious, and their core disciples were not born with martial spirit, but obtained it after being submerged for 3 years in 3 separate ponds: the sun pond, the moon pond, and the star pond. The sun, moon, and star ponds were the most mysterious places in the Three Gods sect. No outsiders knew exactly where they were. Even many disciples of the Three Gods sect didn't know their exact position. The elders of the Three Gods sect would go to the islands in the Endless Sea every 10 years or so to collect talented infants and take them to the 3 mysterious ponds. The 3 ponds had a weird power, as many infants would soon die after being placed in them. Generally, less than 20 infants would survive out of 1,000 after 3 years in the ponds. Those who survived would inherit the power to absorb power from the sun, moon, or stars, and thus were authorized to be a core disciple of the three gods sect. They were then sent to the major islands and taught all sorts of martial skills by various teachers. Although those infants who survived the three ponds all had a martial spirit, their abilities were varied. As for the sun martial spirit, some infants could absorb 10 times the amount of power from the sun compared to others. These infants would develop their martial spirit several times, and they could absorb the sun's power much faster. Some could even produce sun fire from it. Some infants took too much time to absorb the power of sun, and their martial spirit wouldn't develop even if their realm were to advance. Although the sun, moon, and star martial spirits were all sacred level martial spirits, they couldn't be completely mastered if they were not developed. Almost none of the infants from the three ponds could develop the three martial spirits to their highest potential. Even if their realm advanced, their martial spirits would stop improving over time. Only a few infants from the three ponds showed great talent each century. These infants were called a godchild. These godchildren were promising talents and were candidates to become the sun, moon, or star god. A godchild was so rare that they would be considered as the most precious treasure of the three gods sect, and the core sect elders would train them personally. Once they were chosen to take the mantle of one of the three gods, the rest would become core elders of the three gods sect, dealing with all sorts of matters. Most of the godchildren came from the three ponds, while some of them were found in another way. Those who got an original seal of a martial spirit was also considered to be a godchild. This type of godchild were the most promising to become one of the three gods, since they got their martial spirit from one of the previous gods. Therefore, the godchildren who inherited their martial spirit via an original seal were highly treasured. Shi Yin was a lucky dog. Since Xia Xin Yin wanted to send Shi Yin to the three gods sect, she explained every detail carefully. She depicted the three gods sect as an evil religion with mysterious power, and told of many evil deeds performed by the three gods sect to provoke hatred in Shi Yin. Shi Yin knew Xia Xin Yan's intentions, but he just kept silent. On that day, Shi Yin and Xia Xin Yin came to the center of a swamp. They were standing on a dry land and looked for places to step on cautiously. All of a sudden, someone showed up from the swamp and laughed cunningly. "We meet again." "Zhuaqi." Xia Xin Yin looked cold as she asked calmly, "Why are you here?" "I didn't come for you." Zhuaqi smiled and then turned to Shi Yin. "Boy, give me that thing you got from the odd space. I promised Qi Xiao that once you give it to me, I will let you leave the dead swamp alive." "Zhuaqi, you came for treasure?" Xia Xin Yin took a breath and secretly made eye contact to the two huge men. "Don't play tricks." Zhuaqi scorned. "I've been watching you for days, and you know my ability in the swamp. Do what I say if you don't want to sink, or don't blame me for killing you." "Zhuaqi, you can't hurt me," Xia Xin Yin said calmly. "I know Miss Xia can reach the sky realm for a short moment, so what?" Zhuaqi looked gloomy as he became impatient. "Once Miss Xia advances to sky realm, I will sink into the mud, and when you become weak, I would come out again. I know you can't reach the sky realm twice in a short time. Till then, I can do whatever I want." Xia Xin Yan's eyes turned cold. "You cleaned up the nine-headed sky snake for me. I won't trouble you. Just leave the boy and disappear." Zhuaqi looked at Xia Xin Yin coldly and reached out his hand to Shi Yin. "Give me, and you can leave. Or don't blame me for what happens next." "Zhuaqi, you are seeking death." Xia Xin Yin grunted and said coldly, "This is your last chance to get back in the mud, or you will regret for it." "Regret? Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha." Zhuaqi burst out into laughter. "Show me how you will make me regret." Greenish profound qi leaked out from Zhuaqi's body to the center of the swamp. The mud in the swamp moved like waves. In an instant, 10 mud dragons flew out and jumped towards Xia Xin Yin. Xia Xin Yin had an indifferent expression in her eyes as she raised her arms. From the river of time, the power of reincarnation was injected into Xia Xin Yin's palm. Xia Xin Yin, who was at the disaster realm, suddenly rose up into the sky and stared at the mud dragons coldly, a lotus sign appearing between her hands. Countless blue lotuses flew out from her palm, filling the air with a refreshing scent and produced a dazzling light. Every lotus was as big as a wash basin. They surrounded Xia Xian Yin. Break! Xia Xian Yin pointed, and a lotus stuck to a mud dragon. With a huge, thunderous roar, the power from Zhua Qi on the mud dragon was shattered, and it turned back into mud, falling into the swamp. Break! Xia Xian Yin pointed again, while 10 lotuses struck toward Zhua Qi. Hee, you do this first. Let's see. Zhua Qi withdrew his head and disappeared into the mud. Return. Xia Xian Yin seemed to know that she couldn't win against Zhua Qi, as she stretched out her hand and withdrew all the lotuses to her palm. Let's go. Xia Xian Yin stretched out her hand and lifted Shi Yin, who was standing on the swamp, then dashed out of the swamp in an instant. The 2 huge men from the Xia family shouted and stamped, then dashed out like 2 bullets, before they landed behind Xia Xian Yin. Shi Yin, Shi Yin, Shi Yin. At that moment, Bai Mingshang's howls came from afar, containing extreme hatred. The howls became louder and louder as Bai Mingshang approached. Xia Xian Yin's expression shifted at once, as she realized the situation had turned bad. She grabbed Shi Yin and flew eastward as fast as she could while she still possessed Sky Realm energy. You can't go anywhere. Bai Mingshang's soul consciousness overwhelmed the space with his crazy howls. Dash! You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.